Welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks so much for tuning to it. Hope you had a great weekend. Good Monday. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything. But if you do, remember this. We post the show with limited commercial interruption every day upon the conclusion of the program. That podcast brought to you by our sponsor, great friend of the show, Carlton Dean and the fine folks at Southland Commercial SVN. CarltonDean.com, teaching you how to make money with income-producing properties. That, too, is a glorious thing. You can email the show if you like, JCS at 979ESPNRadio.com. Find me on Twitter at JCameronShow. WTSM app works as well. Busy weekend, fun weekend. A lot of drama, high drama there at Augusta. Sergio Garcia finally breaks through. Let's start, though, with a little Florida State football. That should always be the lead, right? Especially if there's actually Florida State football to talk about. And there was. Spring game turned out better than I anticipated. It certainly wasn't something you thought would, you didn't expect the offense to light up the scoreboard. You had so many players out, in particular on the offensive line and at wide receiver. And this is the time of the year where, generally speaking, defenses are well beyond where offenses are. I always get concerned in all my years of doing this. If an offense lights up our defense early in a spring game, I get very nervous about what I'm going to see come fall on defense, because it is much more difficult to get an offense humming in the allotted time than it is a defense. And so I expected to see this defense dominate. This defense did dominate, and some of the stuff is just surface level things. Just once again being reminded of how freaking good Derwin James is. You know, the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Watching him and being reminded the speed, the size, the nastiness, the versatility. They're going to be able to play him all over the field this fall, and he is going to wreak havoc. He is a much more athletic Jabril Peppers. He's a better version of that. He can be so many things for this defense. He can be what you need him to be in a given game, and he loves to play football. And I'm reminded of that too, because it's one thing to have ability. It's, to have the speed, to have the strength, to have the size. But you have to – defensive football, defense in general, when we talk about it with basketball, there's an awful lot of what for. And I love it when you see a passion come through. That guy was so happy to be out there. He was wrecking folks.
I had the radio feed in my ear, and I heard Tom Block, file a report from the sideline that said that he was yelling at Nooney Murray during the game because they're on the same team.
Sure.
He was watching for the defensive coaches on the other sideline signal in to the gold side defense, and he's yelling, "Nooney, they're in cover 2," because he knows all the defensive signals.
Sure.
That's how much he cares about winning. In a spring game, he'll cheat and tell what signals are going into his fellow receiver. But he's a more cerebral version of himself, too, now. So, if the physicality is there, and it is, in spades, the quickness and agility, as you're talking about, the strength, he also understands the defense from a completely different perspective, as he's talked about to the media, that he could stand on the sidelines and see what the coaching staff is doing week in and week out. He understands the concepts even more than he did.
Well, good. He needs to get everybody else to understand him, too, so we don't have another Louisville on our hands.
Exactly. That's been a big-time problem. So, you fortify, hopefully, we'll see. But you fortify yourself against that particular issue of not lining up in the right area. So it sounds like that he's going to be not just the physical specimen that he is, but the leader that we've needed for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I went into the spring game not really knowing what my expectations were. I thought, well, what are you evaluating here? What is it you want to see? What do you need to see? What's going to do your listeners the most amount of good, at least in terms of gleaning insight for what this team can or cannot be, or where we're at and where we need to be. And I had kind of figured out early on, just hearing from Jimbo last week and just obviously looking at the depth chart and seeing who's in and who's out, you understood that yards were going to be hard to come by. Consistency on offense, it was going to be hard to come by. So I needed to see a physicality from this defense, a willingness to dominate, stick your head in there. And then obviously we all wanted to see a couple of things on offense. We wanted to see Cam Akers. Was he the real deal? Was there something that you could draw upon there that you say, yeah, that translates, that's going to work? And the answer to that is a resounding yes. He's exciting. He's also tough. And I think that more than agility or speed or even vision, when I see a freshman come in at a skill position, I want to know, do you have the body to handle it right now? Can you get out on the field? Can your body handle that? And are you tough enough to get playing time early, significant playing time early, especially if you're a five-star kid and we're all eager to see you? The answer is yes for him. He is a tough-nosed kid. It's not the breakaway run. It's not that. It's the little yards, the willingness to lower a shoulder, and the ability, I think, when you watch him take on a Derwin James, you realize this is a guy that's not going to shy away from contact, and this is a guy that will run your ass over if you don't bring it. And you don't see that from freshmen too often.
Yeah, Jimbo talked about in the postgame some of the things he'd like to see a little bit more, in terms of pressing. So allowing the blocks to take place and then to hit the hole, which is something that Dalvin was such an expert at. And, yeah, if you look at what Cam did in certain situations, third and short or a couple of plays where obviously the offensive line got bottled up, he hits the line of scrimmage full speed. I mean, that's the one thing that's a little bit different. I don't know. Hopefully, as his career develops, he's a guy that can make you miss in a phone booth and create something in case there's a rusher that gets through the way that Dalvin could. It seems instinctively he could jump cut and create a hole for himself.
Yeah, I think they're different runners, though.
I don't think Cam is that type of guy.
No.
But he's a one-cut guy, and he's gone. And then, like you're talking about, you can see that he's really strong and huge for an 18-year-old, but he doesn't have the density yet. And once he has that, he's going to be a punisher that goes along with that breakaway speed. He has the tools. It makes you smile when you think about what he can be moving forward. I don't know what he'll be the first month of his career, but you can see it, man. We got 3 years of that.
No, he's going to be
out.
He's a star player, and he's a guy that's going to wear you out. And as he gets bigger and stronger, I can only imagine. I mean, we talk about that ability to run downhill and a willingness to stick your head in there. Imagine what he's going to be when he's 218, 220, and he's got some of that man weight that comes with getting older and putting your time in the gym and all that and eating right. He's going to be pretty special. More on the spring game. We'll hear from Jimbo Fisher in a moment. Florida State baseball on the road. They fall to NC State 2 out of 3 after winning the first game of that series. They have an opportunity on Saturday night with 2 men on in the ninth. They aren't able to move them over. They don't score. They lose that game, and then they lose yesterday 8-4. A disastrous season. Is whatever momentum I thought they could gain from getting a healthy and deeper lineup in there, and maybe it's still to come. Right now, though, I'm done holding on to that hope. I don't know when that's going to happen. Doesn't mean it can't, but there's just no reason at this point to suspect that it's coming. It's a calamity of errors, and I don't mean physically picking up the baseball like it was against North Carolina. It seems that every time something goes right, something immediately happens that disrupts whatever momentum they had, whether that's a mistake in coaching, whether that's a mistake by a player, whether that's just somebody not executing a pitch, whatever it is, they can't seem to find what they normally find when they're really scuffling. And Florida State over the years has been able to overcome, in some cases where they're devoid of talent, fundamentals carried the day. Other times when the fundamentals were lacking, they had enough ability to overcome some of those problems, and they would usually play the game intelligently to get past certain other situations. But every time out now, you're just almost ensured that you're going to see something that kind of gives you pause to think that they're not going to be able to right the ship. They got Florida tomorrow. Here, let's start with scoring a couple runs. Can we do that? Just score a couple runs? I'll take that at this point. Imagine preseason ranked in some polls number 1. Basically could fall out of the polls at this point.
They have in some polls, yeah.
Yeah, it's I guess it'll be a hell of a thing to go into the postseason with legitimately no expectations as opposed to being disappointed.
Well, we talk about the line of delineation of Noles fans, how the Nole Nation, quote unquote, that everybody cites is going to be football first. And then the city of Tallahassee, the local Florida State fans here, are also big-time Florida State baseball fans. They support the local product in a way that the Nole Nation at large does not. I think even those local people, like you and me, I'm thinking more about the spring game right now. I'm thinking about, oh, man, Derwin James is back, and Cam Akers looks good, and Jaquez Patrick ran hard, and DeAndre looks like he's a little bit more comfortable in the pocket, throwing the ball down the field. These are nice things. Oh, yeah, there's a baseball game going on, but I can at least focus on a positive. That's the first positive this program, this athletic department from the Big Three standpoint has had in a few weeks. So I'm going to hold on to that for as long as I can, and then when that, wanes, hopefully the baseball program has gotten it back together.
Well, I don't get angry about it. I mean, it doesn't do me any good to get angry about it per se. I also am not, just as I talked about on Friday, I'm not a guy that thinks it's an impossibility for them to get it together. But I'm kind of done thinking that it's going to happen this year. I will say that. All right, so maybe that's just who they are. I mean, you play enough games, regardless of the reasons, and there are plenty of them, but regardless, if you play enough games and you lose enough series, at some point, that's just who the hell you are. You're just not good enough. And right now, they're not good enough. They're not very good, period. That Masters, again, let's touch on this before we come back and hear sound from Jimbo Fisher. That's one that's going to stay with me a while. I root for people. I root for guys. I know that Sergio was an ass for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And we documented it. We had fun at his expense, as did everybody who's actively a golf fan, watches golf, plays golf. I mean, when guys make mistakes like he made and say some of the things he's said in his career, spit in the cup the one day, I mean, things that are abhorrent you can't do. He deserved to be ripped for all of those things, that immaturity, that foolishness, that bitterness that shone through was not very likable. But somewhere along the way, and I don't know, maybe because I'm 45 and I have kids, and, well, hell, in my 20s and 30s, I made all kinds of mistakes. Somewhere along the way, when he got it together a little bit more, he shut up, got back to the business of playing golf, trained, got himself in shape, took on a different demeanor, decided he wasn't going to complain, admitted openly that he wasn't sure he could win a major. I began to have some sympathy for him. I began to root for the guy a little bit. I began to think, okay, I'd like to see some form of redemption for him, if only because when you look at prodigies, you know, these people that are 18, 17, 18, he's been talked about since he was 17, 18, broke on the scene at Medina, 19 years old, right? Hits the shot from behind the tree, does the scissor kick, runs up the hill, challenges Tiger at an age where he was too dumb to know any better.
There's 5 to 10 athletes in history that were prodigies at that age and lived up to the billing. You know, per generation, there's, across sport, there's a handful of them.
And that's what I mean.
Everyone else is a bust immediately because they're not the greatest thing ever.
Right, and I do think that there's one of the weird things about prodigies is oftentimes if that label is put upon you and you have transcendent ability at an age that doesn't seem to match up, you either suffer under the weight of those expectations, especially if you are unable to succeed early with those gifts, with those talents, or you flourish and you seem charmed, and people look back and go, man, that guy won 7 majors before he was 23. It's just amazing. You see this LeBron James. I've always admired the fact that from high school on, despite the circumstances he grew up in, the world talked about him being the next great player, the next Michael Jordan, which everybody loved to put on him, the next guy to take basketball to another place and elevate it to a place that it hadn't been since Michael Jordan. Well, look, has he had some missteps along the way? Yes, but he's won. He's won championships. He's been an MVP. He's been a world-class top 5 player all time, never been arrested, never been in trouble, said some dumb things, did some dumb things, but handled it for the most part really, really well. And that is so freaking rare, and the pressure that comes with that is so immense. The people that need something from you, who gravitate towards you, the money, all of that. So can you imagine Sergio as a prodigy and your dad being on the bag forever and a day, being your coach, in your ear all the time, trying to live up to Jose Maria Olazabal and Seve, obviously, and winning tournaments but never winning a major, and then kind of becoming a brat about it? I don't know, somewhere along the way, I just started to root for him to eventually get it together and have this moment, but admittedly began to think it was never going to happen.
Sure, especially on the back nine yesterday.
Well, just
it seemed like that was it.
Well, just in general, I mean, he the most starts without ever winning one, a major.
Oh, and nearly 20 years worth of majors.
It's crazy, right? And he's been there, he's had
majors.
moments, and there were chances, and sometimes he blew up and screwed it up, and other times he got a little unlucky. This was incredible, and to watch those two guys go back and forth, and for the momentum to shift the way it did, and then to see the Augusta crowd embrace him, I didn't think we'd see that day. I was that if you just like competition and you like drama and you like watching guys perform under conditions I can't fathom. I texted a buddy of mine while this was all going on before the playoff. I don't know how they're taking the club back.
Yeah.
There was a moment, you saw this, I know you did. Justin Rose was standing over a putt. It might have been the putt he made. Was it on 16? Is it the par 3?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the one he made the same way Sergio made his eagle on 15, the last revolution. It drops
in.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch that putt, before he brings the club back, the putter back, he steps to the ball, and then he ends up having to step away and then reset. His hand is shaking. Man, that'll choke you up. I mean,
Sure.
that guy is so nervous.
No,
his hand is shaking.
The heart that he showed. I mean, again,
Right.
He's down 3 shots on the front 9, climbs all the way back as Sergio is faltering, but he makes putts. I mean, he goes crazy, 3 straight birdies, and then the back 9
Sure.
to have it all kind of fall apart, and then answer on 16. You know what I mean? Like the way he answered after Sergio,
nuts.
crowd's going nuts. He makes his eagle putt. You faltered. You look back at 13 and you think, how do I not make birdie? How do I not get up and down from the back of the green there? And he makes par, and now it's all gone. And then Sergio sticks it, and you think, oh, no, Justin, this is it.
I didn't think, I was like, ah.
And then, well, if you're on his side,
Right.
and
I
then
like Justin Rose. Who doesn't?
he makes the shot, and then he makes the putt, and you think, good gracious.
Not only does he make the shot, as soon as he hits it, he starts walking.
He does.
And by the way, the two of them slapping 5, that's cool to see.
Well, they're good friends.
Yeah.
And I think that helped the situation, too. But, we're lucky. It wasn't the same. It wasn't 36 holes like Phil and Henrik last year at the British, but we got ourselves a duel. A straight duel.
Because everybody else faded away.
Yes, they did.
And the people that have lauded those guys, and that's anybody covering golf, as being so much tougher, so much more capable of reaching back and finding that inner strength, well, they had to sit back and second guess and think to themselves. I mean, because, listen, Ricky and Rory, and Ricky shouldn't be included in the conversation.
Yeah,
he's
and
never
Jordan.
done it.
Yeah.
But when I say Rory actually
Yeah, that
did
was
really well.
the American pairing was
Yeah.
garbage yesterday.
I meant to say Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan was a wreck from hole 1. Fell to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then everybody gave him credit at the end for birdieing 3 of the last 4 holes.
No,
You're
go
out
to
of
hell.
You don't get credit for
No.
that. You don't get credit
No,
for
we're
that.
talking about this guy as the guy who owns Augusta and all that stuff. And it's okay for him suddenly to finish in the top 10?
Rory finished 7th at -3 very quietly, by the way.
How about Matsuyama shooting 500 yesterday? It's like an A-Rod home run down 10.
You know what you find is all those guys that end up shooting low numbers, or several of those guys on Saturday and Sunday that shot low numbers, a lot of them did so well. They were well out of the damn tournament. You're like,
There's a freedom in that.
Oh, there's a hell of a lot of freedom in that. That was good stuff. You didn't even have to like golf to like what you saw yesterday.
Oh, I was at the CP yesterday, the corner pocket, and it turned into a pro Sergio bar. I think more people than want to admit it today were kind of pulling deep down for Sergio
Because
yesterday.
people want redemption. They want people to, get it together. Get your life together, buddy. Come on.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
Keep your current one. Forward your calls to any phone and even get your voicemails transcribed. Join over 250,000 small businesses who stay connected with Grasshopper. See how it works at grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system.
Tallahassee loves the corner pocket as much as a crystal ball winning catch.
He's looking, he lost it to the end zone. It's Benjamin! Touchdown! With 13 seconds left.
The 97.9 ESPN radio special is a must-have every Monday and Wednesday at the corner pocket. 10 mouth-watering wings, a fresh side of fries, and a chilled domestic pint of beer are just $9.79 all day long. Be sure and try the fish blend of sauces, a true wing eater's favorite. The Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
He's gone!
Home of Trivia Tuesday, Beer Bingo Thursday, and the daily $7.99 lunch special.
Parker Brothers Roofing says don't play games with your roof. Protect your home and your family.
Customers constantly tell us that they're getting several estimates to compare apples to apples. You ever bite into an apple and find out the inside is rotten? Cheap roofing quotes are just like that rotten apple. Quote looks shiny and delicious because it's the cheapest, right? But you wind up with that rotten apple that leaks or starts to fail immediately. All roofing quotes are not equal. Cheap estimates equal cheap materials, subpar labor, or both. For quality that lasts, call us at 656-8112.
Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
License number CCC 049350.
Milwaukee specials are heating up at Cornerstone Tool and Fastener. M18 Fuel 2-tool combo kit, $100 trade-in plus free brushless Sawzall. Hurry up while supplies last. This great deal ends soon. $100 off most Milwaukee M18 Fuel kits. M18 Fuel, upgrade, outwork, outlast. Cornerstone Tool and Fastener, the largest Milwaukee selection in the area. Big store pricing with local service. 2 locations to choose from: 1110 Stuckey Avenue and 3269 Crawfordville Highway. Tallahassee location open on Saturdays at 8 a.m. until noon. Call them at 580-1200 or online at ctf.nu.
Join us for 8 days of nonstop tennis as the rising stars of the USTA Pro Circuit battle for a main draw wildcard into the French Open. It's the 18th annual Tallahassee Tennis Challenger, April 22nd through the 29th at the Forest Meadows Tennis Complex. Proceeds benefit the Wagner Neurointensive Care Unit at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. Sponsored by the Florida Lottery, Tallahassee Democrat, the City of Tallahassee, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, 850 Business Magazine, and Comcast.
You know you love the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Wait a minute, I gotta stop everything. Very important. I just got a very important email from a high-ranking ESPN executive. And it reads, Ditka fell asleep on Countdown once. But it's got a question mark. And I don't know if this guy is a sloppy punctuator or if there is question about the falling asleepness of Mike Ditka on Countdown.
Ditka fell asleep on Countdown once?
Mm-hmm. It's got a question mark. I will email him back and I will get an answer to you expediently.
Sounds right. The Dan Le Batard Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on 97.9 ESPN Radio. This is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Thanks to our friends at the Metro Deli. Stepping it up. That's a tasty sandwich. Trying to finish my food while we're going back on the air.
People could see mine on the webcam feed. Got half of it down.
JCS979, ESPNradio.com. Feel free with the emails. Fire away. Back to spring football. Because I could go on for an hour about the Masters, but I'm not going to do that.
People are like, no!
I don't know, man. I got to imagine those ratings were outstanding.
No. I'm sure they were. You don't think what? You don't think that viewer for viewer turned into the Florida State spring game on Saturday afternoon as they turned into the Masters?
When I went back and watched ESPN's broadcast of the spring game, other than, you know what I'm saying, or he had a crutch or two, Rex didn't do too terribly bad. Wasn't awful.
No, he stayed in the generalities sector of things, talking about the game more than he was about the roster, which I like because, if you try and pretend to know everything about a roster and you don't, that comes off way worse than just, punting on it and speaking in the generality of football.
I also think it's hard for coaches. We'll see what he does as the course, just media critiquing media here, but just let me say this. I think when you first come out of coaching, that's a fraternity. And the hardest thing in the world for those guys to do is to be, and you're not going to be critical in a spring game, but to be critical of a team, a coach, its players, because they all know each other. They all know and react and talk and hang out. And Jimbo even referenced hanging out with, we're going to have more audio tomorrow because we'll have more opportunity to kind of, I guess, expound further on Jimbo's overall mentality this spring. Now, we'll touch on it some here today, but we got great audio from yesterday. towards the end of his Q&A with the press, and how he was kind of really relaxed and seemed almost at ease and relieved that spring was over, and admitted to being awfully tough on the team. Ira Schoffel is going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour today instead of the 4, and we'll talk about his demeanor. We'll talk about what spring produced and get his thoughts on what he saw yesterday. But Jimbo seemed like he knew he needed to be a ratcheted up version of an already intense person, and that this was going to be a spring where he was going to test them mentally and physically, because he's desperate to instill a higher level of toughness that he didn't see a year ago in the first half of the season. And with Bama looming large, I think he felt, we got to get to this place. We got to really elevate where we're at mentally and physically from an intensity standpoint. Now, part of that is, again, rhetoric that coaches like to use in spring football, but I think it came across as pretty sincere. You saw a lot of guys get dinged up, a lot of guys get banged, and he didn't back off that. I think he's just relieved that nobody suffered any serious injuries.
That's one thing, he noted in his talk to the press after the game that, happy with the spring and where it is, and we have the audio of him talking about it, but he wraps up with the thought that, you know what, looks like we've got out of this thing without any major implications for the fall from a health standpoint. No big injuries. And that's one of the first things, we talk about it in fall camp, especially because the time is nigh, especially this fall. That camp is going to be so important that you don't hear any bad news from two-a-days that somebody's, not available for week 1.
Yeah.
They've got to be ready. But that's a huge deal for spring, too. Because, if guys, especially with a 10-day break, if there's a lack of continuity and maybe your mind is wandering, that's when you get hurt. You know it better than I do.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, that's true. But he really doesn't seem to think that had any effect on spring. I know we can disagree, but it doesn't seem like, because he's been asked about it several times.
This is a routine. He's got to be saying that for, the purposes of not trying to start a big fight. For somebody who is routine-oriented, I can't understand how you would be okay with something completely killing the flow of what he's trying to do, which is create and instill toughness.
I will say that I think the adversity of something like that falls in line with the things that he talked about throughout this spring, which is, how do you handle things? How do you how do you compartmentalize? How do you, prioritize? How do you remain focused? And so I'm curious what this offense can be. I think that's the biggest question mark of the season. I didn't go into the spring game expecting to see much offensively. I wanted to see Cam Akers. I wanted to see Deondre Francois, to see how he handled himself, looking at him from a body language, leadership standpoint. I didn't expect him to have big numbers in this game again. Didn't have an opportunity to throw to too many scholarship guys. And he didn't have anything but a makeshift offensive line in front of him. So I suspected that the offense would really struggle, and it did. We'll get Jimbo's thoughts on this after the break, but I did like what I saw from him in that he didn't get frustrated. He really seemed to be more of, when you're a quarterback, obviously all eyes are on you. It's very important how you react to negative plays, how you react to guys maybe missing an assignment, how you lead. And I think he looks really, really comfortable in the role.
Well, we talked about it leading into the game that, the number one question we had for this team in the fall is something we can't answer in spring, given that the offensive line isn't healthy. But attached to that point is, yes, I think a frustrating thing coming out of Saturday is it's really hard, because if you extend that out to the receivers and their health, it's really hard to evaluate exactly what Francois is, how much better he's gotten in facet A, because all he had to throw to was Devontae Phillips at wide receiver, and then at tight end he could throw to Izzo. But you can't really evaluate the down-the-field progressions, because maybe he's making the right reads based upon the coverages that he's seeing, but if the receivers aren't good enough to get open because they're fourth-stringers / walk-ons, well, they can learn that on the All-22, but that's not something that we can see live and in the flow in the stands, or if you're watching on ESPN. There's no way to evaluate that and get a greater sense of what he is or what he isn't.
Good news is this linebacking core is going to be better than we've seen in a number of years. I think that is something that you can glean from this. This is a group that is emerging. And congratulations to Jacob Pugh, a guy that I think maybe in the back of our mind we've begun to write off and think maybe he's never going to be the player that we thought he could be when we recruited him. Jimbo Fisher had nothing but huge praise for him amongst some other players. We'll hear from Jimbo Fisher next on the Jeff Cameron Show.
You must
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
So, you know, the Violent Femmes are a very underrated 80s band.
I don't disagree. In fact, they're one of the first bands I ever saw in concert. I got a question for you since you're bringing up music. Yay or nay on Skid Row? Sebastian Bach.
Oh, that's Skid Row.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
If you think trains will stop if they see a car on the tracks, you're right, they will. About a mile after they hit you. In 2015 alone, 230 people were killed at railroad crossings. Don't become the next fatality. Stop. Trains can't. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
As an entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. Make and receive business calls using our iPhone and Android apps. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Forward your calls to any phone and even get your voicemails transcribed. Join over 250,000 small businesses who stay connected with Grasshopper. See how it works at grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. As most of you know, it's that time of year again. Tax refund time. What does that mean for all of us? It means that every single car dealer in town will be trying to shout the loudest for you to bring in your tax refund. Bring in your W-2s, and they will put you in a car. A used car that is nothing like what you really want. Well, guess what? Kraft Nissan's New For You program is an absolute game changer. We don't need your tax return. We don't need to see your W-2. And absolutely the best of all, we will not sell you an overpriced used car. And that is exactly why at Kraft Nissan, we call it the New For You program. We will plug your information into our system, which approves 4 out of 5 people with damage credit, and at the end of the day, you will drive away in a brand new Nissan, with or without a tax refund. You know the deal. Recently divorced? No problem. Recent bankruptcy? No problem. Credit score under 600? No problem. And it's not tied to taxes. Come see how easy it is for you to drive away in a new Kraft Nissan. And remember, if you don't see the Kraft tag in your car, you paid too much, way too much. Kraft Nissan on Mahan Drive between Academy Sports and Costco.
Have you ever noticed when you report an accident or a claim to an insurance company, they are very eager to get you to one of their approved body shops. They say that they guarantee the shops work, but what they're really saying is the shop works for them, not the customer. So choose a shop that is working for and looking out for you, someone you trust. It's your choice. Lisa's Paint and Body.
License number MP46050.
There's a new 7-year tractor warranty in town. Now, only Mahindra tractors have the industry's best 7-year limited powertrain warranty. That's right, not 5 years, not 6, but a full 7 years. Only on the world's #1 selling tractor, Mahindra.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Only at TNT Supercenter. Go see Clint and the friendly staff to get your next Mahindra tractor. TNTSupercenter.com.
Warranty on select models. See Mahindra warranty policy for details.
You get in your car, start it up, and press the gas. And from your phone, you hear... and you respond. And then in your rear view, OMG, it's a COP. And then you learn that a ticket for texting and driving is nothing to LOL about. You drive, you text, you pay. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
It's Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. And right now, you can save up to 35% on appliances, like the Whirlpool stainless steel French door refrigerator. With its AccuChill temperature management system and full-width pantry, it keeps food at the correct temperature. And during Spring Black Friday, it's a special buy at just $998. Over $700 in savings. Nobody beats our prices. Guaranteed. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only while supplies last. See store for details. Valid through April 12th.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Man Cave Monday, brought to you by Experimag of Tallahassee. Experimag, Tallahassee's trusted tech source for Apple. Stopping at 346 South Magnolia Drive or call at 765-2012 today.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Jimbo Fisher talked about spring practice, game overview, the whole deal, spring overview. This is Coach Fisher, about 90 seconds worth.
For the first part of scrimmage, even though there wasn't a lot of scoring, there wasn't a lot of missed assignments. Those guys really just, all right, I beat a block, I made a play, and I talk about good ball all the time. It's one of the better days as far as you can make a play on the other side when the other side screws up. I mean, you're supposed to. When a guy blows a coverage or misses a block, just as far as missed assignments. But if you beat him physically, that's good. I mean, your technique's good, his technique's good, you win the job. So from that standpoint, about like I thought today would go, very physical. I thought the defense would play very well because I said we're so deep in the secondary and thin at receiver right now that I thought that would be the case. But it was a lot of good situations, a lot of good physical play, and guys, very proud of. I thought Logan really hit the ball really well today. He punted today like he has the last 2.5 weeks of practice. Like I said, I mean, his technique's gotten better and everything. Ricky missed that one, which he should have made, but then come back with a big 52-yarder and another kick and did a nice job, had a nice kickoff. So in that regard, we got to keep grinding in that part in the kicking game. Again, you didn't see the returners, but we guys caught punts. Guys fielded them very naturally, did the things they had to do, put them in some situations out there and like that. And then, like I said, up and down. And the defense did a really good job in the day. Offense had about five times, I think it was, they crossed the 50. We're in that 35 to 45 range where you start to getting points, and I call it the gray area. It's very critical how you play on defense. I thought they made plays. Offense just didn't get it in, but it was good plays by defense, and that's good. I'd be rather ahead on defense right now, which I think we are. But for other dog, good physical day. I thought there was a lot of good hits in the day, and a good thing we didn't have anybody come out of the day with anything that would keep them out of fall.
And the only thing Tom Lang heard there was that Logan punted exceptionally well.
What? You know me too well, sir. And he did. There were a couple that were a little low on the hang time factor, but most of them had the right hang time inside the 20s, and he had a couple of bombs too.
He did, and I think he's going to be fine. I mean, we talked about, first of all, if you're a guy that comes in and maybe you're inconsistent, but you got the big leg, all right. We'll get there. It's hard. We're used to guys coming in here. It's crazy. I talk about it all the time, how long that run lasted. We had kickers and punters rolling through here that, for the most part, now obviously we had debt for a while there.
Until he turned a profit.
That's true. But we had a run that really, by all rights, you should never expect to have, and that lasted, and it was fun. And so, taking a step back a year ago was to be expected. Let's hope that, obviously, that gets a lot better. It's got to be a lot better in that first game. I know that. You don't want to – you got to give yourself every opportunity to beat an Alabama. It's hard enough to do if you do everything right, but you certainly can't give them short field. So that's good news. He punted with confidence. Spring game, I got you. But just look better. I don't know what a punter's technique should be. I won't pretend to tell you I do.
It should be noted, though, that, for Det, it didn't matter if it was a spring game. If there was just any extra pressure, he really didn't.
People watching.
Yeah.
Of any kind.
Open practice in the fall.
Just anything.
Until the Boston College game.
Lady walked by, just anything. You had problems. No, so that was
selfishly one of my favorite montages is the Beatty montage with the Gap Band. And it's Mac Brown going, unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. That's we ought to play that just for fun one day again, just out of the blue. Well, we'll do it in the summer. We always find stuff in the summer. But so anyhow, I knew you'd be excited about that. I was excited about that. I can't, Jimbo talked. You know what else he said? You didn't include it in that, but it made me laugh. He said, well, we didn't get to see any returns, but we caught the ball. We caught the ball. I was like, fuck.
Well, there we go. Yeah.
Good Lord, man. Low expectation. That's a low bar.
The one thing I would say, even though I think it was 13 sacks or something, it's something ridiculous like that, some big number.
Well, he comments on that too.
I thought the pass pro was okay. When it wasn't extra pressure being brought, I thought it, for what they were and what they're going up against, which is the deepest segment on the team and the thinnest segment on the team, they did as well as I could have expected or more.
Yeah, and as Jimbo pointed out, 13 sacks is not a realistic number. And no, I don't disagree with you. I thought they were okay. I thought that guys had times. You just had, in the case of walk-on receivers, you had guys who couldn't get open.
Right.
Not against that secondary.
Sure. Just like, these things work hand in hand on offense. We talk often about it on defense, how a pass rush can make you seem better as a defensive back core, and then there are coverage sacks alternatively.
Ultimate team game, buddy.
Same thing on offense with the quarterback. The offensive line can generate time, but if the receivers can't get open, well, that doesn't mean a whole hill of beans. And then the quarterback is judged for holding onto the ball too long. It all works together. I just thought, they won their fair share of battles, especially early in true pass protection situations. Now, when they brought rushers, the defense did, no chance.
If you guys want to have fun, go back. I know a lot of people listening to this probably went out and enjoyed their weekend and didn't sit around the house and watch a spring game. I'm talking about people out of town listening to us, maybe even people in town. And if you want to go back and watch for things, there's a couple of things here. One of them is watching Emmett Rice blow up Nooney Murray and Jimbo Fisher's response, which we can't play for you.
No, we cannot. No.
We cannot play for you. You got a timestamp on that, Tom?
It's in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's in the fourth quarter, but I didn't know exactly where.
Obviously, it's Garnet offense, and there's a completion down the middle. Cosentino's in a quarterback, and it's behind the play. They don't show the replay, but when Nooney is down and shaken up, that's the play. So go back and watch the live version of it.
Watch the camera from behind Jimbo, and then watch what he says. And he's very frustrated with Emmett. But I think Emmett kind of emerged as a bit of a star in this spring game.
Yeah.
Emmett Rice is an emerging linebacker, and he's got a physicality and nastiness to him that I want. See, I always want my linebackers to be on the edge. I always want you got to be a little crazy to be a linebacker. You just do.
A star in that sense, not necessarily sideline to sideline, but in the thumping department.
Yeah, in the department of what for, and a willingness to stick your head in there. There's a part where he blows up a pulling guard.
Yeah, that's in the second quarter with 4 minutes to go.
Watch that play.
The graphic says it's the first quarter. That's just a graphical error. So look around, the second quarter, 4 minutes to play, and you'll see a left guard pulling into the hole, and what Emmett does to him is just unreal. The cameras pick up the sound well too on the thump.
The mics do, and then you'll hear when you hear that, you'll see that there was what for given, and also poor technique from the pulling guard who's standing straight up. But that said, he pays a dear price because Emmett's willing to stick his head in there. He's also the one that I think Jimbo's upset on the play with Nooney Murray because, and what he says is, there's a couple F-bombs dropped in there that we can't repeat, but he's mad at Emmett asking him why he would do that. He's not asking him. He's imploring. Why would you do that? Why? Jimbo loves to say why.
Yeah, it's the 2017 version of the Jameis clip.
It's classic.
Jameis, why? Jameis, no.
Only it's much more animated.
Shrill.
Much more angry. Much more focused. And I think it's because he thought he concussed Nooney Murray, and there they are at the end of spring practice. Nooney has to be a star for you this year, and one of your linebackers decides you're not going to run a square in, and not without a little payment. And that's when you watch the play. It's basically a shoulder and an elbow into the rib cage. And I think he's just sending a message, and it's one I want my linebacker to send if we're playing anybody. It's a legal play. It's not an illegal play.
Sure. Last year, if that's, Switzer for North Carolina.
Sure.
Somebody who's just really annoying.
Well, especially if you're not going to cover them and they're going to throw it to them on every play.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying. That was lacking last year. The grit, the frustration, the willingness to lay it on somebody early in the year for whatever reason, they just didn't have that. They didn't play with any kind of edge. There was it wasn't a very physical team. And we all just sat around scratching our heads. Well, if your stated goal this spring is to instill toughness because of that and to preach that you have to fight through injury and that you have to be willing to stick your head in the hole and do your job, even if it doesn't mean that glory is thrown your way, but rather you let another player, you free up another play to make a play. That's the kind of play that Emmett makes that you go, all right, it's working. But Jimbo was fearful that he, like I said, that he had concussed Murray.
Well, but Jimbo talked about that in general. You mentioned Pugh and other players too, just doing little things that add up to, the difference makers.
I'll play the audio for him talking about Jacob Pugh. Pugh is, he was kind of the star of the spring, and Jimbo talked about how much it meant and what it is for Jacob Pugh to be able to come this far and kind of find your game, man.
It's funny when you play your best, it's when you start doing everything right and you don't worry about the results. You're not worrying about what's going on. I'm just trying to do what's right every day. And all of a sudden, when you do that and you have the ability he has, you start becoming a dominant, productive player like he has been. And that's what he did all spring. And I don't think, I praised him a lot during the spring, but I think it kind of shocked him. And I said, it's kind of, it's the old cliche. Don't worry about the results and don't worry about trying to be this. And just go play and do your job. And man, and you got ability like he does, it becomes and you saw it today at times, rushing and physical and the way he covers. And even if there was a couple tight ends, a play early in the scrimmage, I don't know if you saw it, but tried to hit a crossing route. JJ didn't. It looked bad, but what the problem was, he jammed the tight end so good on the line of scrimmage. Something that little, a lot of folks don't see in the thing that screwed the whole play up. He's doing every little thing right. Really staying focused on what he's doing.
Quote, unquote, Jimbo Fisher describing the spring that Jacob Pugh had, the best spring of anybody we've ever had. That is really high praise bestowed upon a guy who got the MVP honors and Heisman Award at halftime of the Garnet and Gold spring game that I don't think any of us expected going into spring would be lauded in this capacity.
Well, then there's a couple of ways you can go with that. Number one, Rick Leonard won Defensive Player of the Spring in the past, and Greg Dent as a receiver has won Offensive Player of the Spring. It doesn't always translate as to what you're going to do in the fall. However, Jimbo may be in the business of overstating heights and weights sometimes, 40 times, and bench presses and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't usually say somebody is the best I've ever seen or ever had during this period of time. He doesn't like to put that on kids if it's not real, because he thinks then you're applying undue pressure and expectations. But in this case, he does. He decides to. And he says that it's the best spring that he's ever had here. That's –
well,
if he's half the weapon that Jimbo says he's going to be, that's an unexpected buoying moment for this defense, because you have Derwin and you have Burns and you have Sweat and you have Noddy and you have McFadden. Then you add Pugh, like the kind of Jacob Pugh that Jimbo is kind of hinting at. That can change things even more.
Well, and I also think that is high praise, perhaps extolled above and beyond what's actually happening. I don't know, but because it's a reward. If you're going to ask people to sacrifice, to focus, to get better, to be unselfish, to find, whatever it is that's been missing inside of you that gets the most out of you. Now, in his case, he hasn't always been healthy. He's clearly very proud of the kid, and he's asked all of these guys to come back up here. We got to go to another place, and I don't think you guys recognize where that place is just yet, but I'm going to help get you there, and I'm going to do it by being a son of a bitch. And you're not going to like me, but you may emerge on the other side. Listen, the benefits of hard work, it's a hard thing to learn when you're young, and you don't even realize when you're getting it. Anybody who's played organized sports, we've all learned that lesson. When you come out the other side of that, all of a sudden, those people that you abhorred for holding you to that standard and those people that really got on you, you love forever. That's what it's all about, right? And so now this kid has found that within himself, and Jimbo wanted that rewarded as an example to all these other people that he's berating every day and harping that they prove themselves mentally, physically, be tougher, all sacrifice. It's interesting to watch him mature as a coach. I'm not saying Jimbo didn't do this with other guys. I'm not saying Jimbo didn't have a methodology from day one. He's been a very successful coach here without question. It's just interesting as he gets older, He gets more nostalgic at times. He did in talking to the press about things were. And it's also kind of a reminder to him that, you know, you're talking about a different generation of kids than when he played, obviously, or when he came up. And
he'll be fond to tell you a different set of rules, too, for how you coach those kids and how much you can.
Right. And he's trying to find, you know, okay, that breaking point with a lot of these guys, well, not alienating them, but getting them to respond. And sometimes that's good cop, bad cop stuff. Sometimes that is breaking them down and building them back up militarily, you know, all that stuff.
And that's got to extend to the coaching staff as well.
Well,
if you
I
keep
think,
the entire coaching staff and that's the result that you put out there last year, you got to think it extends the same way to the meeting rooms with the coaching staff.
And by all accounts, and again, we'll talk to Ira Chaffel in the 5 o'clock hour, by all accounts, this has been a tough spring for both the players and coaches. It's been a very tough spring. My people have said that, look, he was, well, he said it. He said it. He admitted it at the end of spring. He admitted that he was awfully difficult. And at times, so much so, he felt bad. He was driving home thinking, you know, because that's what you do when you're up against it, when you push people to that breaking point. I mean, we've all done this with people that we have belief in. But I'll tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than have somebody really challenge you. And then you, for whatever you're thinking in the moment, you get past that, you do what they're asking of you, and then there is that attention garnered for the right reasons. And not only do you feel better about yourself, but you become connected to the guy that you hated for the entirety of that session or whatever it might be. I mean, a given year, a given summer, in this case, a spring. You know, and then that's what builds a bond where you get guys that'll run through a wall for you. So I think that's what he's attempting to do. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
Creek Entertainment Gretna is your hometown headquarters. With live poker and simulcast race betting, you've got more winning opportunities right here close to home. Plus, we now offer 3-card poker and Pai Gow in our card room. Satisfy big appetites at Stables, featuring hot and cold sandwiches, salads, and weekend specials. There's always something exciting going on at Creek Entertainment Gretna. I-10, exit 174, Gretna, Florida.
Parker Brothers Roofing says don't play games with your roof. Protect your home and your family. The Parker Brothers tell you the truth. We'll fix your roof, 'cause it's what we do. With quality, integrity, and pride. Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
Customers constantly tell us that they're getting several estimates to compare apples to apples. You ever bite into an apple and find out the inside is rotten? Cheap roofing quotes are just like that rotten apple. Quote looks shiny and delicious because it's the cheapest, right? But you wind up with that rotten apple that leaks or starts to fail immediately. All roofing quotes are not equal. Cheap estimates equal cheap materials, subpar labor, or both. For quality that lasts, call us at 656-8112.
Parker Brothers Roofing, professional every time. Stay safe and dry inside.
License number CCC 049350.
Milwaukee specials are heating up at Cornerstone Tool and Fastener. M18 Fuel 2-tool combo kit, $100 trade-in plus free brushless Sawzall. Hurry up while supplies last. This great deal ends soon. $100 off most Milwaukee M18 Fuel kits. M18 Fuel, upgrade, outwork, outlast. Cornerstone Tool and Fastener, the largest Milwaukee selection in the area. Big store pricing with local service. 2 locations to choose from: 1110 Stuckey Avenue and 3269 Crawfordville Highway. Tallahassee location open on Saturdays at 8 a.m. until noon. Call them at 580-1200 or online at ctf.nu.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
So, the Violent Femmes are a very underrated 80s band.
I don't disagree. In fact, they're one of the first bands I ever saw in concert. I got a question for you since you're bringing up music. Yay or nay on Skid Row? Sebastian Bach.
Oh, that's Skid Row.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee. Tallahassee Sports Center.
I'm Lee Gordon. Spring football is officially in the books. The Noles looked as good as advertised on Saturday. Jacob Pugh cemented his name in our minds, receiving both defensive MVP honors and the Heisman Award. Well, the weekend started out good for Florida State baseball, but hit the skids rather quickly. The Noles dropped the final 2 games at NC State over the weekend. That means the Noles, who were the #1 team in the country on March 19th, could fall out of the top 25 this week. They quickly turned things around for Florida at home Tuesday, then Saturday through Monday against Clemson. Well, if you missed it from Augusta, one of the best finishes in recent history, Sergio Garcia wins the green jacket in a playoff against Justin Rose, who all but had the tournament wrapped up until he didn't. Justin Johnson, who didn't play after he slipped on some stairs, is already opened up as the favorite to win the U.S. Open. And must-see TV tonight on ESPN 7 o'clock, the Cubs raise the World Series banner prior to the game against the Dodgers.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Man Cave Monday, brought to you by Experimag of Tallahassee. Experimag, Tallahassee's trusted tech source for Apple. Stopping at 346 South Magnolia Drive or call at 765-2012 today.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Thanks for tuning to it. A fine Monday to you and yours. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. There you go to listen live via the streaming free always. I was just watching some highlights during the break. I saw it, but when you watch it from different angles, different perspectives, Derwin James, man. I really, it's not that we didn't know, so I'm not telling you things you didn't already know. And there were guys that he was going against that were just simply overmatched. To be blessed with that kind of athleticism, that kind of speed, but then you marry it with the kind of the anger he plays with, a controlled fury. I know I'm using cliches to describe his intensity, but it's a joy to watch.
I know this isn't his primary function, but I really believe he could be a premier rush end if he wanted to be one.
I don't know that he would have he's going to end up amassing some sacks because we're going to use him in so many different ways, but he doesn't have the size to be a premier rush end. per
Well,
se.
from I mean, stopping the run or holding the edge or anything like that. It's just when you want him to get to the
Well,
quarterback.
yes, the way we use Jalen.
Yes.
And LaMarcus Joyner.
But he can even do so in the box. You know what I mean? Within, not coming off the edge necessarily. He just has the quicks to. It's almost like a running back juking a defender. The way he gets around a lineman, he can either bull rush you. We know about that.
I was going to say, can we play that on a loop from the rest of the show, like on our video feed on YouTube? Can you just play him lifting the UF offensive lineman off the ground?
And there were elements of that in some of the rushes he made this weekend. Not quite that drastic,
right?
But then there's also his ability to just use agility and kind of make one step and then get underneath the lineman and at
You
full
think
speed.
that offensive lineman's recovered from being bitched like that?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know that I ever could. I don't.
Why doesn't Rinaldi do a piece on that
on that
particular
guy and
lineman
his family?
for
like
college
having
game
to
day?
endure that, like he's just
Sure.
walking around
Yeah.
campus, like, dude, you're a lineman. He's a safety. Sweet Jesus, just tossed you away like you were a.
His roommates shunned him.
I mean, emasculated is just a nice way of describing what occurred there. There are many other ways of describing that situation that are more colorful and violent.
Cover charges once again applied to the young man.
I'm glad I don't know his name because I would have used it and brought it all back to light again.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's not that we didn't know he was a beast going into the spring game, but without seeing him last year in all of his glory and to watch the fervor with which he plays the game and the enthusiasm. Well, first of all, on a serious note, the defense was awful for lots of reasons in the first half of last year. And I'm not going to, I mean, there's enough blame to go around. But it didn't help that he got hurt right off the bat, and I do think his style of play is infectious. I think that when you watch defenses, and in particular, if you have a guy that does this well, swarm to the football, and sort of the way that galvanizes groups to where you want to be part of that. I love the greatest defenses are the ones that play together, love each other, and are all trying to outdo one another. It's a form of competition that elevates the entirety of a unit. So that guy is the catalyst for this group. Has to be. He's the best player on the field. And any game we play, just about, he's going to be the most impactful player on the field. Now, there are exceptions. When you play Alabama, obviously when you play Louisville, when you play certain teams, they got guys that can match it. But for the most part, he's the most impactful player on the football field.
It just gets you excited because
You're damn right. That dude's freakish.
You add him to the list of defensive backs. Tavares McFadden didn't play in this game.
No.
But, I
That's
don't.
the story of the spring game. All the guys that didn't play, it frustrates me. I mean,
Sure.
we knew the defense would dominate because of it, but you can't really learn anything about the offense because the offensive line didn't play. You can't really learn anything about the receivers because, A, not enough of those guys that we're going to be counting on played. 2, they were divided. So you really didn't have much there. I thought DeAndre looked comfortable in the pocket. I thought you had, Cam Akers looks like he's going to be a player. Has a nastiness to him in the way that he runs. Obviously fits the 5-star billing. But you really couldn't glean much from the offense.
Well, and conversely, you can't glean a whole lot from the defensive backs because there aren't that many scholarship receivers out there.
They're just
but
dominating walk-ons.
But they did what they were supposed to do.
Which is true.
And the length of a Stanford Samuels is, I don't know if it's for this year or not. I don't. If it is, then that's a big bonus.
Nice player.
But, okay, they talk about the wingspan on signing day. That's one thing. But then you see it.
When you watch it, yeah.
And
yeah.
Okay.
You're like, oh, that's different. Yeah.
That is different. And, it's not lost that, he forces a fumble on Cam in the second half, and you think, wow, maybe these two guys might be cornerstones for the 2019 team.
You're reminded, okay, so there wasn't a lot of buzz going into the spring game because people understood that if you don't have the entirety of your offensive line or you got a guy from your offensive line, it's going to be hard to get anything going. Coupled with the fact that defenses are always ahead of offenses at this time of year. So the snooze fest this turned out to be was exactly what you expected. Now, had the offense come out and really lit this defense up, this would be a different narrative. We'd be very nervous about what was going to happen. Charles Kelly would be changing his resume. So there's all of that. But the defense did what they were supposed to do, and they looked good doing it. And the guys that you are going to count on that did play on offense look good. They look fun.
Well, there's a reason that Jalen Ramsey could have excelled in 2013. It's because you had LaMarcus and Telvin and Terrence Brooks and everybody under the sun that you needed to be great. Well, they were there, and they were great. So, the thing I find really exciting about this team If Derwin stays healthy, if everybody stays healthy through camp, that needs to be there as a starter. So you got your cornerstones and Derwin and Trey Marshall and McFadden on the back end with Nate Andrews as a safety net there. Maybe he'll be playing some situations. One would think against Alabama, you'd probably want him more on the field than not. That's a big-time situation where you need a player to be in the right place. But then you could turn it over to either a Kyle
How odd
Myers.
would it be that Pruitt recruited him?
Yeah, I know. Years and years and years
to
ago.
Alabama. It seems like ages ago.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But then you can mix in a Kyle Myers or Westbrook or Malik Jackson or Levante Taylor or Stanford Samuels, because if you have enough guys doing what they're supposed to, that's when that young player who has the ability through the roof, and that's more the latter examples of the names I just listed, Stanford Samuels or Levante Taylor, they don't have to be the world beater. They don't have to be the dominant player. All they got to do is fulfill a role, and they've been a star all their career. But they can grow into that role organically. That's the way these pipelines are supposed to work.
You think, by the way, that Cam Akers probably assured himself of not the lion's share, but the majority of first-team snaps with that group in the fall?
I think so. There are plenty of situations, and the Alabama game might call for more than you'd think, where Jaquez is a great option. The physicality to drive a pile back or drive a linebacker back. I'm not saying he's a dominant player. I'm just saying, given what he is as a player,
but here's our problem.
He looked good.
Yeah, he did look good. But you know who else looked like a beast? Leonard Fournette, who did nothing against Alabama ever, and that's what they do, run downhill with a power back at LSU. And Alabama's defensive line is so talented, so deep, so big. You're just not going to create that. And my worry for Patrick is that in that situation, well, I guess what we're speaking to is the diversity of the group, because that might be a game for Amir Rasul, might be a game for Cam Akers, even a Ryan Green who looked good this weekend.
He's got burst, doesn't he?
I like Ryan. I wish he'd get more of an opportunity, not ahead of, say, Cam Akers. But
that's the problem.
You got too many running
There's
backs.
Dalvin and Cam. But, I mean, I think there's something to be said for what Alabama does to Fournette and LSU, given what offense they run too. What else are you afraid of if you're Alabama? But with us, what else do you have to be prepared for and afraid of?
Yeah.
A hell of a lot more than what LSU is bringing to the table.
With us, well, what you're envisioning and you couldn't see in the spring game, and we use this as a springboard into the summer, and we all we wait around until there's that buzz recreated again as you get about a month and a half out of college football starting. But what you envision with Florida State against Alabama is spreading them out and throwing the football to, now you can mix and match here, but I think ideally the group that we would be talking about would be Auden Tate, Devontae Phillips, Keith Gavin, George Campbell, Nyquan Murray. I mean, you'd love the idea. If those guys can all rise up, be healthy, and take a huge step forward, in George Campbell's case, just be on the damn field, but can Nyquan Murray be the leader? Can Keith Gavin, who's physically a guy that, I don't know, I can't envision too many DBs really dealing with him very well if he's right and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it's Gavin, Tate, Nooney, and not in that order.
I'm just naming the receivers, whether we're in the slot or we're out, the Z or the X, whatever. But, yeah, it's Tate and Campbell and Phillips and Gavin and Nooney.
I wish Phillips played a bit of a better game. That's one person if you're going to circle, because it's largely been positive against expectations, and then most of it's an incomplete grade for guys that you would be worried about.
They like him, though.
They do, but,
he didn't have a great day.
Short-armed, a couple of balls didn't fall. I mean, Rex, actually, that was one of the few people he called out, looking back at the broadcast, for not finishing the route, slowing his feet down.
He slowed up on the one deep ball, too, down the sideline.
There's a big chance there,
Yeah. I'll just chalk that up to a bad game. He's largely been praised by Jimbo for a toughness that some of the other receivers haven't always shown. So I'm not going to use this one to kind of say that he can't do that, because he's obviously done. I mean, again, we can't see practice, but he's already done it enough in practice to where Jimbo noted it.
He's got the body type, too. And again, it's like what translates for that particular game. And that's where, again, you can't know definitively anything in watching a spring game, but you can, discern at least traits of players. I mean, Devontae Phillips is the type of guy that in a game against Alabama you're going to need over the middle to secure a ball. Kenny Shaw didn't look the part, but Kenny Shaw was that guy.
Dude had so much heart.
So
you
who's
cannot
going to be
look like that and put yourself in that situation, and yet he did time and again, and he almost got decapitated a few times.
Well, think about the incompletion that Derwin forces early in the game over the middle.
Yeah.
It's a third down throw. It's a dime from DeAndre, and it's a third down, so you got to have it. You put a receiver, let alone the fact that he's a walk-on, but you put a receiver in duress because you got to get the first down. Well, Alabama's going to deliver how many of those type hits?
Oh, sure.
And so you got to have somebody that's tough enough in that situation to step up. I don't know that Nooney's that type, but he did take a couple of pops over the middle, not including the Emmett Rice play, like when he was actually trying to catch the football.
The Emmett Rice play is still one of my favorite plays, and it's not, I don't know, from the angle we saw on the TV, when we go back and watch that from the TV angle, it's not that bad a hit. It's
it doesn't look, he could have done worse.
Oh, my goodness, he could have destroyed.
Yes.
Well, sometimes I think Nooney needs that. I don't know.
I think if you caught the coaches in an honest moment,
they'd say,
they might say nothing and nod.
Yeah. They probably went back and looked at that film and went, I don't need him doing that, but it's a good hit.
Not the worst thing in the world.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
License number CCC 049350.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Why? Because you can save 45% on packages compared to your high-priced cable bill. Wow. Take those giant scissors out and cut the cable and save with Dish TV. Plus, you get a free DVR upgrade to record your favorite shows and free installation. And with Dish Anywhere, you can watch TV for free on your mobile device. Act fast. You can save hundreds of dollars. Does your cable company do that for you? I don't think so. Get all the best TV programming at your fingertips at a fraction of the price of cable TV. So say adios, arrivederci, goodbye to the high cable bill and save up to 45% on Dish TV packages today. These are limited time offers and can change at any time. Call fast. 800-344-2066. 800-344-2066. 800-344-2066. That's 800-344-2066.
Out on the golf course, there are the obvious hazards. There's the pond, the bunker, the rough, the even rougher.
Yeah, put me down for an 8.
The giant maples. The row of houses out of bounds on the right. The angry flock of geese who've surrounded your ball. Even the occasional groundskeeper you had no clue was there. But if you think you found every possible hazard out there, think again. The hazard you missed could actually be a killer. It's the spot on your skin, the one that could be skin cancer. Fact is, if you're a man over 50, you're in a group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma, the kind that kills one person every hour. 1 in 5 Americans is likely to develop a form of skin cancer during their lifetime. That's why your best shot is to check for a spot. It's easy. Follow through and check your skin. It could be the save of a lifetime. Go to spotskincancer.org to find out how. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
You get in your car, start it up, and press the gas. And from your phone, you hear, and you respond. And then in your rear view, OMG, it's a COP. And then you learn that a ticket for texting and driving is nothing to LOL about. You drive, you text, you pay. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
It's Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. And right now, you can save up to 35% on appliances, like the Whirlpool stainless steel French door refrigerator. With its AccuChill temperature management system and full-width pantry, it keeps food at the correct temperature. And during Spring Black Friday, it's a special buy at just $998. Over $700 in savings. Nobody beats our prices. Guaranteed. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only while supplies last. See store for details. Valid through April 12th.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. As most of you know, it's that time of year again. Tax refund time. What does that mean for all of us? It means that every single car dealer in town will be trying to shout the loudest for you to bring in your tax refund. Bring in your W-2s, and they will put you in a car, a used car that is nothing like what you really want. Well, guess what? Kraft Nissan's New For You program is an absolute game changer. We don't need your tax return. We don't need to see your W-2. And absolutely the best of all, we will not sell you an overpriced used car. And that is exactly why at Kraft Nissan, we call it the New For You program. We will plug your information into our system, which approves 4 out of 5 people with damage credit, and at the end of the day, you will drive away in a brand new Nissan, with or without a tax refund. You know the deal. Recently divorced? No problem. Recent bankruptcy? No problem. Credit score under 600? No problem. And it's not tied to taxes. Come see how easy it is for you to drive away in a new Kraft Nissan. And remember, if you don't see the Kraft tag in your car, you paid too much. Way too much. Kraft Nissan on Mahan Drive between Academy Sports and Costco.
This is the Jeff Cameron Show. Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Got a gut feeling? I'm going to summon the gut feeling. You got Florida tomorrow, 6 o'clock here. This begins a stretch of a ton of games in Tallahassee. If it's going to get started, probably needs to get started, right? So you get Florida tomorrow. You've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This is a brutal stretch, I might add. If after you go from the Florida game to Saturday when you play Clemson, you play 5 games in a row without a day off. Most teams aren't equipped to do that. Most college teams especially aren't equipped to do that from a pitching standpoint. But nonetheless, that's the schedule. So tomorrow is Florida. You'd like to win one of these eventually. Score a couple of runs. Be nice. That said, it's Clemson, Stetson. The 11th, the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th before you go 2 days after that game and play in Coral Gables against Miami, who, again, is not very good this year, but nonetheless, either are we. So, here you go. Yay or nay on this stretch, over under 3 wins over the next 6 games.
Push. If you had to push me harder, I'd say under. 2 and 4. I think 3 and 3 is the number, but if you had to make me choose, I'd say 2 and 4 is more likely than 4 and 2. Where we are.
The 8-4 loss yesterday, ensuring NC State the series win, a series that started well enough for Florida State with a 16-7 win on Friday night. Saturday, it's a 4-3 loss, heartbreaking at that, as they have an opportunity with 2 men on and no outs in the 9th. They don't get a run home there. They lose 4-3, and then yesterday they lose 8-4. Drew Mendoza does go yard, killed a ball, but it's a bizarre year. Even those that are staunch or staunchly against Martin being here for much longer would admit that this is not the year they're accustomed to seeing, even those that are highly critical of him and feel a need to move on. And that's there's no getting around it. That's just a fact. They keep losing series to teams in this conference. And now, obviously you come off the ACC series in which you get swept at home against North Carolina. You bounce back with 2 one-run wins, dramatic at that, 7-6 in that Tuesday game. Then you won the 3-2 game. I said last week when we were signing off on Friday, hey, they won those 2 games against a ranked Florida Gulf Coast team. They're getting healthy. They're getting their lineup. It's lengthened. With Mendoza returning, they've got opportunities with these guys to maybe find some consistency. And maybe this will be the start of something good. So they win Friday night, and they score 16 runs in the process in Raleigh. And that's 3 straight wins, coming off of the 3 straight losses. And I thought, okay, win one of the next 2 games, you win this series, and honestly, you'd feel pretty good about your position coming into the Florida game on Tuesday, and then the 5 in a row with the 3 against Clemson Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Stetson Tuesday, Wednesday. But they didn't. They didn't lose. They didn't win either of the next 2 games. They lost those 2 games and lost another series. And now you begin to wonder if this is. There's still a lot of baseball. There's no getting around that. There is still a lot of baseball to be played. I mean, you have these games against Clemson, then it's Stetson, then it's Miami, and then it's Virginia. Then you have Pacific, for what that's worth. Then you have Jacksonville. Then you have Wake Forest. You got Louisville. So there's a lot of games, is my point. And things shift. Things change in baseball in a way that sometimes you don't see coming. You see a team that's really reeling, but I don't think I can make the argument that now that's going to happen. Certainly not with what they've done up to this point. It may, but I don't feel comfortable saying that I think it will. I did up until maybe late last week or early Saturday, I guess you could say.
Well, they have the ingredients to turn it around. That's what gets
I think
annoying.
That's what's so frustrating. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But I guess they lost the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, hell yeah, they have. And if there's a week to get right, I mean, these are the opponents. It just frees out Stetson for a moment, but 4 games against rivals, one of which you just have a hell of a time with, even though they quit games and, just shy of going official when they give up 10 runs to Stetson. But then also Clemson in the division. I mean, listen, are we going to win the Atlantic anymore? No, I'm not trying to say that, but it's just you got to find some confidence somewhere. And it can't be midweek games that bring you confidence. You got to start chopping away as best you can in the ACC standings, and these are good teams that you can cut your teeth against. And the situation that you're in right now is you try to run down a host site for a regional this year. And
listen to that.
I mean, yeah.
Just say it out loud. By the way, for those wondering, and
you try to get hot at the end of the season. That's the other thing you're trying to do.
RPI isn't everything. But you use it a lot of times when you're just trying to find, even pseudo RPIs like you can find on Boyd's World. There are a lot of places you can look for these things.
Right, to discern who is a national seed, which is usually the discussion we're in.
That is usually the discussion we're in. That is correct. And do you know how far down the list you got to go these days? Even if you want to use this as a kind of a marginal assessment of who's where. I mean, you're getting close to 40th.
I was going to say, if I had to guess, I'd say 32nd or something like that.
39th currently.
Wow. For this program, that's nuts.
39th.
Yeah. You've never seen anything like this, and you've been coming decades more than I have.
Well, go easy on decades, but yeah.
I mean, you saw games in the 80s here, didn't you?
Not the 80s, no.
Okay.
No. Close, very close.
All right, so for
the beginning of the 90s,
better part of 2 decades more than I.
Yeah, the better part. I mean, we're just barely ahead of southeastern Louisiana, Binghamton, St. John's.
Oh, boy.
Actually, we're behind St. John's. Behind Mercer, New Mexico.
Mercer, you don't say.
Yukon.
World needs plenty of bartenders.
I mean, McNeese State.
World needs plenty of bartenders.
That's what hurt your feelings. I mean, you did move ahead of Florida Gulf Coast after those 2 big wins, but
maybe they got fat off of us and, a Florida program that may be a little bit more mortal than we're making them look like every time we play them.
Stetson's like, bring it on, Florida. Yeah, Florida, by the way, is outside that top 8 national seed cut line, too, currently at just 21-11. It's not like they're having a great season either.
That's what I'm saying about Florida Gulf Coast,
Yeah, no, it's a weird year. It's you're right. I haven't spent too much time calculating that Florida State is, in the neighborhood of 40th, 45th.
World needs plenty of bartenders.
Not all schedules are created equal, but, man, when you look at who our wins are against and whom our losses are to, it's
World needs plenty of bartenders.
Buddy. Not a good time for Florida State baseball. They're just not any good right now.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
For you. We go out on a limb for you.
If you think trains will stop if they see a car on the tracks, you're right, they will. About a mile after they hit you. In 2015 alone, 230 people were killed at railroad crossings. Don't become the next fatality. Stop. Trains can't. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
As an entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. Make and receive business calls using our iPhone and Android apps. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Forward your calls to any phone and even get your voicemails transcribed. Join over 250,000 small businesses who stay connected with Grasshopper. See how it works at grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system.
This morning you're up early because you're at the DMV. So many people, it takes so much time. Do you have the right form? Are you in the right line? Your number E42, right after C23. This is confusing when your morning is hell. Just go to Taco Bell.
When you've had a morning, let us make you breakfast, like Taco Bell's Breakfast Crunch Wrap. A whole breakfast wrapped up and grilled to eat on the go. At participating stores for a limited time during breakfast hours.
Progressive brings you Flowetry with Flow.
A tool called Name Your Price. Get a grip on your spending like an industrial vice. It's nice. Beats rolling the dice. I prefer brown rice. Don't carry dumbbells when you walk on thin ice. Splash.
Get insurance based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. Visit progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Join us for 8 days of nonstop tennis as the rising stars of the USTA Pro Circuit battle for a main draw wildcard into the French Open. It's the 18th annual Tallahassee Tennis Challenger, April 22nd through the 29th at the Forest Meadows Tennis Complex. Proceeds benefit the Wagner Neurointensive Care Unit at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. Sponsored by the Florida Lottery, Tallahassee Democrat, the City of Tallahassee, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, 850 Business Magazine, and Comcast.
Have you ever noticed when you report an accident or a claim to an insurance company, they are very eager to get you to one of their approved body shops. They say that they guarantee the shops work, but what they're really saying is the shop works for them, not the customer. So choose a shop that is working for and looking out for you, someone you trust. It's your choice. Lisa's Paint and Body.
License number MP46050.
Due to an upturn in the economy, Main Street Business Loans has pre-approved the release of millions of dollars in small business funding. Your business may already be pre-approved to receive up to $250,000. We've sent out millions of pre-approval letters. We see the economy growing, and our underwriters believe now is the time to invest in your business so you can grow faster and make more money. And we're prepared to give you up to $250,000 to do it. Your funds can be available in 5 days. There are no application fees, no annual fees, just quick access to up to $250,000. If your business did not receive your approval letter to get up to $250,000, call Main Street Business Loans Approval Desk now.
800-509-2163, 800-509-2163,
800-509-2163. 800-509-2163.
Tallahassee Sports Center.
I'm Lee Gordon. Spring football is officially in the books. The Noles looked as good as advertised on Saturday. Jacob Pugh cemented his name in our minds, receiving both defensive MVP honors and the Heisman Award. Well, the weekend started out good for Florida State baseball, but hit the skids rather quickly. The Noles dropped the final 2 games at NC State over the weekend. That means the Noles, who were the #1 team in the country on March 19th, could fall out of the top 25 this week. They quickly turned things around for Florida at home Tuesday, then Saturday through Monday against Clemson. Well, if you missed it from Augusta, one of the best finishes in recent history, Sergio Garcia wins the green jacket in a playoff against Justin Rose, who all but had the tournament wrapped up until he didn't. Justin Johnson, who didn't play after he slipped on some stairs, is already opened up as the favorite to win the U.S. Open. And must-see TV tonight on ESPN 7 o'clock. The Cubs raise the World Series banner prior to the game against the Dodgers.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Man Cave Monday, brought to you by Experamac of Tallahassee. Experamac, Tallahassee's trusted tech source for Apple. Stopping at 346 South Magnolia Drive or call at 765-2012 today.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Ric Flair got booted out of a bar 5 minutes after entering said bar, and that's just cool. Well, potentially, if you were there to see it. Former professional wrestler was in a bar in Fort Wayne Sunday night after you insulted one of the bartenders. They told him he had to leave. Here's the best part. An employee at the deck, the gas house in Fort Wayne, told the Indianapolis Star that Flair was acting like a moron, and she said that he called one of the bartenders a fat ass. Not Ric Flair. No. Flair was only at the bar for a few minutes before being kicked out. The incident was reported first by ProWrestlingSheet.com. I wanted to know if wrestling fans think this is an accurate statement. Widely regarded as the greatest professional wrestler of all time. That's how the paragraph starts.
By whom?
That's what I'm saying. Well, the writer of this story that I read today in the USA Today.
That's not an objective truth.
The Indy Star, sorry.
That's not objective at all.
There are diehard wrestling fans that listen to this show, more diehard wrestling fans than I would consider myself. I watched it as a kid, loved it. It was fun, grew out of it. Now that I have kids, they like it. It's fun to take them and to see their faces. Took them to wrestling down in Tampa, and that was neat. And I love Ric Flair because he's ridiculous, and that's what you root for, guys that are just over-the-top absurd. But I didn't know that. And I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Would that sentence be regarded by most in the wrestling community as an accurate statement? Widely regarded as the greatest professional wrestler of all time. Flair had a long 40-year career and has been a 16-time world champion. That's the other thing I like about wrestling articles. Anytime they cite the number of world championships somebody has, as if those weren't all fixed. He didn't earn the world championship.
Right, yeah. They weren't fixed. What?
So the point is, I would have liked to have been at that bar to see Ric Flair call a waitress a fat ass. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying you should do it. Just saying I would have loved to have seen Ric Flair call a waitress a fat ass and get booted out of a bar. That seems very Ric Flair-esque, and I can celebrate that. Just if I bore witness to.
Well, they have the 30 for 30 coming out at some point this year. Yeah, it's due maybe this summer. But
I marvel that he's not dead. Every time I do see him, I think,
the thing is, he's not that great of a guy. Is
that right?
Oh no, man! I don't think he's a good dude.
Well, I would know. I mean, I don't know any of these guys' real backstories.
30 for 30 is going to show.
Really? He's like a really bad guy.
Well, I mean, define on the scale of straight and narrow to sociopath or something. He's not on the
Is he
good
a
side.
multi-time felon? What is this?
Domestic incidents.
Well, then
a
not
lot of
guy.
pill popping and drinking and stuff like that. Like, he is the character. He's not. He can't get away from being Ric Flair. That's who he is. Larger than life and
He's actually that guy.
denigrating. Yeah, like that's
I would.
But if you want to laugh, people,
I would have laughed at that. You would have too. Don't lie.
Enjoy the woo off from the TNA wrestling days. There was a bit where the guy with cornrows is doing a Ric Flair impression,
and he nails it.
He nails it.
No, it's fantastic.
It's dead on. That's about 3 or 4 minutes of excellent entertainment if you're looking for something to finish off your workday, other than this fine program.
I'm often stuck with my kids. They watch this now, right? And I don't want to, tear down the curtain. I want them to believe it because, when you were a kid and you watched it, when you thought it was real, it was everything. It was a big damn deal.
Sure.
You got emotional when people cheated.
No,
no, that's not fair.
Well, and Ric Flair was the one who would do that because he's not a talented professional wrestler. He's not an acrobat, if you will. So it was always something stupid that happened in his matches where there'd be a low blow or somebody would take
a foreign object.
A foreign object. Yeah. He always took the razor to his forehead.
Which I liked. But, my sense of frustration and sadness and rising anger from within when witnessing an injustice was born out of watching wrestling. Like, anytime somebody charged the ring.
Wait, your sense of justice and injustice was born
out of watching wrestling.
Professional wrestling.
Cops and robbers, none of that stuff mattered. Wrestling. This cheating son of a bitch, they ought to put him in prison. Like, I used to get so mad.
Oh, man.
Somebody charged
the ring. So you
and
Clark are the same kid.
Yeah.
In that regard.
They charged the ring, and I'd go, but see, I had older brothers, and they would laugh. They knew it was, but they wouldn't even tell me.
Right.
And then I would be enraged.
Hopefully they're not listening, Bryce and Clark.
Whatever. I would get enraged. I would be seeing something that they knew was fake and part of a storyline, and I was 7 or whatever.
Sure.
And no! Why doesn't somebody stop this?
Yeah.
That's not fair.
When I started watching, it was just after Hogan turned to the NWO. And those were the glory days of that generation where it was the Monday Night Wars.
So he went from being the all-American guy to the bad guy with the fake black beard.
Yes, the NWO, the black and white. And then, it got pieced off into the Wolf Pack. And then there was also Raw going on with Austin versus McMahon and The Rock and Mankind. I mean, good God. I grew up in a golden age of professional wrestling.
It's funny that, for you it was, and by then the sport was.
It was objectively a golden age. It found its way back into the conversation of society.
Yeah, what I'm saying is though, everybody who around a certain age gets into wrestling believes that their age was the golden age of wrestling. I mean, prior to that, I had Dusty Rhodes and Roddy Piper and Brutus the Barber Beefcake and all these guys, and that's the golden age of wrestling.
Stone Cold takes the bedpan to Vince McMahon.
I'll handle that, nurse. Yeah. So, you know what they have gotten away from in wrestling that I'm really happy that they did, because I can't believe we used to follow this the way we did when wrestling was on the USA Network.
Yeah.
These fake story bits where they still do the fake story bits where they would actually act out a scene where the missing link lived in a cave and the cave was obviously a set.
Oh yeah.
And they'd go, let's go visit the missing link, and I found him in a cave. The manager would tell you, and I would watch. Why is this guy living in a cave? Somebody should help this man.
Man, I'm telling you, some of the best bits were the hokiest, though, because they just look so ridiculous.
Well, the doctor tried to cure George the Animal Steel.
when the Ultimate Warrior was haunting Hollywood Hogan, I told you about this before.
In the mirror?
He sees him in the mirror.
Sees him in the mirror.
Did you see that, brother?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, Hulk, what did you see?
It's absurd.
He's there. He's there. The Warrior's coming back, brother.
And there's your golden age of wrestling. Yes, I remember watching that. But now, and I refuse to tell Clark, no matter how mad he gets, when something's happening to his guy, I just sit there and go,
Buddy, there was more adult humor in the those days, the late 90s, early 2000s. They called it the Attitude Era. Remember the APA? Ron Simmons was a member of the Acolytes.
Yeah.
And they had the big plywood door. and that's all they had. So they were calling to attention. It's just ridiculous. And they'd be sitting at a poker table smoking cigars, and you could hire them as mercenaries to protect you in case you had a beef with another big wrestler.
And there were these alleged moments in these bars, although the bar is just a door.
Yeah, it's just a door. It's just a plywood door in the middle of a really big hallway, and you had to use the door. If you didn't, they would beat you up.
I'm knocking the mic around. Oh, good
The
Lord.
Acolyte Protection Agency.
I was going to... So, I don't know. You guys can tell me whether or not Ric Flair is largely considered to be the greatest wrestler of all time.
I think everybody loves to do the woo. That is absolutely true.
I would guess that most people would consider either Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant.
Or The Rock.
Or somebody like that. Or Stone Cold, for that matter. We can keep going.
Austin 316 means I just beat your ass.
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
Sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Why? Because you can save 45% on packages compared to your high-priced cable bill. Wow. Take those giant scissors out and cut the cable and save with Dish TV. Plus, you get a free DVR upgrade to record your favorite shows and free installation. And with Dish Anywhere, you can watch TV for free on your mobile device. Act fast. You can save hundreds of dollars. Does your cable company do that for you? I don't think so. Get all the best TV programming at your fingertips at a fraction of the price of cable TV. So say adios, arrivederci, goodbye to the high cable bill and save up to 45% on Dish TV packages today. These are limited time offers and can change at any time. Call fast. 800-344-2066. 800-344-2066. 800-344-2066. That's 800-344-2066.
You get in your car, start it up, and press the gas. And from your phone, you hear, and you respond. And then in your rear view, OMG, it's a COP. And then you learn that a ticket for texting and driving is nothing to LOL about. You drive, you text, you pay. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
It's Spring Black Friday at the Home Depot. And right now, you can save up to 35% on appliances, like the Whirlpool stainless steel French door refrigerator. With its AccuChill temperature management system and full-width pantry, it keeps food at the correct temperature. And during Spring Black Friday, it's a special buy at just $998. Over $700 in savings. Nobody beats our prices. Guaranteed. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only while supplies last. See store for details. Valid through April 12th.
Hi, Chris Kraft for Kraft Nissan. As most of you know, it's that time of year again. Tax refund time. What does that mean for all of us? It means that every single car dealer in town will be trying to shout the loudest for you to bring in your tax refund. Bring in your W-2s, and they will put you in a used car that is nothing like what you really want. Well, guess what? Kraft Nissan's New For You program is an absolute game changer. We don't need your tax return. We don't need to see your W-2. And absolutely the best of all, we will not sell you an overpriced used car. And that is exactly why at Kraft Nissan, we call it the New For You program. We will plug your information into our system, which approves 4 out of 5 people with damage credit, and at the end of the day, you will drive away in a brand new Nissan, with or without a tax refund. You know the deal. Recently divorced? No problem. Recent bankruptcy? No problem. Credit score under 600? No problem. And it's not tied to taxes. Come see how easy it is for you to drive away in a new Kraft Nissan. And remember, if you don't see the Kraft tag in your car, you paid too much, way too much. Kraft Nissan on Mahan Drive between Academy Sports and Costco.
You're listening to The Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Do that just to feel better?
I did that because
You're saying goodbye to the season?
I'm saying goodbye. We would be playing this for 2 months. We'd be playing this, at least 10, 12 times.
And damn them for depriving us of that joy, which
know.
was to meet at some of our favorite establishments around this great city, such as Gordo's, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Gordo's, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
Whichever one was on the hot streak, really.
We were on rolls, man. We'd go up there and enjoy the company, the people, the fine folks, the TVs, obviously the food. And no, the Lightning had to go and let us down with a catastrophically poor season.
Yeah, by their standards, absolutely.
Brutal. We got baseball on right now. There's baseball being played. Baseball everywhere. Beautiful baseball. I knew wrestlers would respond, the wrestling fans. So at the end of this segment, there's going to be a giveaway. Be paying attention. Greatest golfer not to have won a major. I remember after watching Florida State beat Nebraska in the national championship game. I was there with my father in 1993, of course, and that season, that first national championship campaign. And I remember, and I've said it numerous times on the air, that you could almost literally see the monkey jump off of Bobby Bowden's back and sprint across the field onto Tom Osborne's back as the greatest coach to have never won a national championship. And you were so relieved to see somebody else have to wear that burden, that albatross around the neck that can be really, really difficult and present itself as a problem in your quest to be a champion. As we know, it can dictate the way you call plays if you're a football coach, the way you hit a golf ball if you're a player, obviously. On the tour, like Sergio Garcia, who now rids himself of that moniker. Who is it?
Oh, well, first I would just want to say, unfortunately for the monkey, it got drawn and quartered when it went to Tom Osborne's back because of what they did.
Well, he turned around and said, "Get the hell off of my back."
Good Lord.
Yeah, and then at that point, in due time, it became for a brief stretch, maybe, I guess you'd say Steve Spurrier, but then he gets at 96, and then, but these things, we love to do this. We love to point to guys that have had great success. Mike Martin has been wearing it forever.
Yeah.
There are other college coaches that are considered to be all-time great coaches that haven't won it, but Martin is the best of those, and he, that's been a weight that's brought up
until this June, buddy. It's going to be taken care of this June.
Well, that would be the funniest part of it, is to have a team playing like this, losing as they do weekly, turn around and win the whole thing. Not hold my breath. So you're going to say Ricky Fowler, or you're going to say
Lee Westwood.
Yeah, but Ricky's a more talented player than Lee Westwood. And so is Justin Thomas, and so is John Rahm, and so are all these guys. They just haven't been doing it as long. Lee Westwood's one of these guys that you would never describe as talented at all. But, just pure golf talent, ball striker, all that, you'd go, he's a guy who's a consistently solid player. But nobody, when they talk about the world's best players, cite Lee Westwood, ever.
I think he's a wonderful ball striker. He just can't putt. And his short game is
garbage.
But he can hit the damn ball.
He hits the ball. Yeah, you're right. That was probably the wrong example. I'm saying people don't cite him as one of the world's best players. They don't. They would name 10 guys before they would name him.
He always shows up on time for his reservations, though. You know?
Oh, I like Lee Westwood.
They never hold his reservation.
Well, you're rooting for him next. That's fine. But I'm saying if we're going to just name people that are more talented than Lee Westwood, we'll be naming them for a while.
That's correct.
So Matsuyama is on the, John Rahm.
But he's been more consistent over how long? 15, 20 years almost? I mean, he's been there in the conversation for that long. There's something to be said for that. I mean,
he's had a good career is what he's had.
Of the players that you just named, Matsuyama and Rahm and Fowler and Justin
well,
Thomas.
I think, okay, then how
do you
about
think
this?
that 20 years from now they're all going to be there in the conversation? No, and that speaks to what Westwood is at least able to accomplish in, instead of winning a major.
Right, but all of them have a good chance to have walked away from this game
Absolutely.
with a major.
No, I'm not arguing this point.
How about I bring this name up and you tell me what you think? Because I think that's okay. If you're going to combine consistency with game and perennial top tens,
Miguel Angel Jimenez.
No, and he's already on the Champions Tour now.
I know,
Time's up.
but he was really good for a long. Now you talk about the wrong era.
Matt Kuchar.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Kuch is freaking good.
Yeah,
he is always in the top 10.
Yep,
he is always there. He's got game. Never wins it.
He's got more charisma than he has game, though. That's why he's selling Skechers.
And he never used to.
No.
He's got a geeky charisma.
Yep.
He's just a doofus. That hole-in-one was hilarious yesterday. He's just like, oh, he's an aw shucks kind of guy.
He's an aw shucks with a little salt and pepper, man. That sells. That pushes some shoes.
Matt Kuchar is number one on my list. Brandt Snedeker.
Matt Kuchar is going to be the front man for like Cialis in 10 years.
Oh,
he's got the perfect look of that guy in that commercial.
But I don't think he would do it. No, he wouldn't do it.
Jimmy Johnson did it.
Yeah, he did. But Jimmy strikes me as somebody who would. Matt Kuchar does not. Well, Ricky Fowler is probably the answer. If you have whatever he was, all those second-place finishes in a given year.
God, yeah.
And let's not forget, now Ricky has won Sawgrass, which is considered the fifth major, which is that field every year is incredible. And Sergio had two. Sergio now, it's so funny, one major, what it does,
right?
It flips everything because now every close call is a feather in the cap.
Sure.
Now all the times that you came up just short. Remember we were going through the names and I said, listen, Sergio's actually been better at Augusta than you think. And we saw those 4 top 5s. And it's just he's played in so many. But now he's won one and has 4 top 5s.
Sure,
and all of a
yeah.
sudden it looks like
he hadn't been a factor in nearly 10 years at Augusta, and he had talked openly about how the course just has his number, how it's not the place for him. It's kind of like when Phil, even though Phil had several majors, won the Open Championship. That's not the way Phil was built until he learned how to play out there.
I've never understood that, by the way. The British Open, and I know that hardcore, extremely knowledgeable, and especially former players or active players can tell me, and I mean players that are at elite caliber, could tell me that I'm crazy. I always thought if you were going to win a major and you had struggled to do so, the one you'd win is the British.
Well, sure. Ben Curtis, Todd Hamilton,
just random ass
Darren
people
Clark
win the British Open
when he's in his late 40s.
I dare say, marginally talented people find themselves in a position to win the damn British Open if the wind's blowing right on the days they tee off.
Todd Hamilton, Ben Curtis.
There's a lot of just sorry ass people you never hear from again, straight up winning the British Open.
Todd Hamilton, Ben Curtis.
And it drives me nuts. That's why I'm like, 2 fingers to my eyes, 2 fingers back to you, British Open.
Well, it's a good thing that Justin Leonard won that because that's, I believe, his only major.
Yeah.
And he just got hot with the putter that weekend.
He was a Ryder Cup champion.
Yeah. Oh, he made that putt.
He made that putt, buddy. And danced all over his line.
Oh, man. Joe Buck's fan uses a phrase for what people do on the field of football. That's like what they did with Olafable's line, that American team.
Just jumping up and down on it.
So to speak.
Hey, we got to give away some stuff. Ready? Hey,
Blink 182's coming to town, man.
They are.
We already did a round of giveaways, it seems like 6 weeks ago.
I will tell you something. I feel like we did give away these tickets a year and a half ago.
The show is May 3rd. It's kind of like the NFL draft.
Jesus.
It's like the NFL draft. It'll eventually get here.
Their PR team does a hell of a job.
With the
they
naked
want
and
you
famous
to know
and waves.
forever in a day that they're coming. Hey, everybody. 3 years from now, here comes Blink 182. If you're still alive, go check them out. Caller 4, final hour forthcoming. Stay with.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
Because you're at the DMV. So many people, it takes so much time. Do you have the right form? Are you in the right line? Your number E42, right after C23. This is confusing. When your morning is hell, just go to Taco Bell.
When you've had a morning, let us make you breakfast, like Taco Bell's Breakfast Crunch Wrap. A whole breakfast wrapped up and grilled to eat on the go. At participating stores for a limited time during breakfast hours.
Progressive brings you Flowetry with Flow.
A tool called Name Your Price. Get a grip on your spending like an industrial vice. It's nice. Beats rolling the dice. I prefer brown rice. Don't carry dumbbells when you walk on thin ice. Splash.
Get insurance based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Due to an upturn in the economy, Main Street Business Loans has pre-approved the release of millions of dollars in small business funding. Your business may already be pre-approved to receive up to $250,000. We've sent out millions of pre-approval letters. We see the economy growing, and our underwriters believe now is the time to invest in your business so you can grow faster and make more money. And we're prepared to give you up to $250,000 to do it. Your funds can be available in 5 days. There are no application fees, no annual fees, just quick access to up to $250,000. If your business did not receive your approval letter to get up to $250,000, call Main Street Business Loans Approval Desk now.
800-509-2163. 800-509-2163. 800-509-2163. 800-509-2163.
You know, we never talked about this, but he's not here now, so I'll bring it up to you. Is Tom kind of violating the man rule with all that sangria?
You know, if we were in Spain, it'd be a whole different situation.
All right, guys, how's it going? You ready to record?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
No, well, I'm good. Did you just turn those on?
Yeah, why?
No reason. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Join us for 8 days of nonstop tennis as the rising stars of the USTA Pro Circuit battle for a main draw wildcard into the French Open. It's the 18th annual Tallahassee Tennis Challenger, April 22nd through the 29th at the Forest Meadows Tennis Complex. Proceeds benefit the Wagner Neurointensive Care Unit at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. Sponsored by the Florida Lottery, Tallahassee Democrat, the City of Tallahassee, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, 850 Business Magazine, and Comcast.
Broadcasting live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios. This is 97.9 ESPN Radio, WTSM, Woodville, Thomasville, Tallahassee. Tallahassee Sports Center.
I'm Lee Gordon. Spring football is officially in the books. The Noles looked as good as advertised on Saturday. Jacob Pugh cemented his name in our minds, receiving both defensive MVP honors and the Heisman Award. Well, the weekend started out good for Florida State baseball, but hit the skids rather quickly. The Noles dropped the final 2 games at NC State over the weekend. That means the Noles, who were the #1 team in the country on March 19th, could fall out of the top 25 this week. They quickly turned things around for Florida at home Tuesday, then Saturday through Monday against Clemson. Well, if you missed it from Augusta, one of the best finishes in recent history, Sergio Garcia wins the green jacket in a playoff against Justin Rose, who all but had the tournament wrapped up until he didn't. Justin Johnson, who didn't play after he slipped on some stairs, is already opened up as the favorite to win the U.S. Open. And must-see TV tonight on ESPN 7 o'clock, the Cubs raise the World Series banner prior to the game against the Dodgers.
Live from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Buick GMC Cadillac Studios in the capital city of Tallahassee, this is the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Man Cave Monday, brought to you by Experamac of Tallahassee. Experamac, Tallahassee's trusted tech source for Apple. Stop in at 346 South Magnolia Drive or call at 765-2012 today.
Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Good looking out. Thanks for joining the show. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do, you're armed with the knowledge that we've got you covered. All 3 hours are posted every day upon the conclusion of the show, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. That's a good thing. And it's all brought to you with limited commercial interruption. Thanks to our great sponsor, Carlton Dean, carltondean.com. He and the fine folks at Southland Commercial teaching you about ways to make money in commercial real estate. You can email the show if you like, jcs at 97.espnradio.com. Find me on Twitter at jcameronshow. WTSM app works for your mobile devices. And right now we're on YouTube, where if you go to YouTube and type in ESPN Tallahassee, you can watch us perform the show if that's what you'd like to do. Thanks for everybody who has up to this point. So listen, the second segment this hour, we're going to bring Ira Schafel on from warchant.com and kind of take a closer look at the spring game. Real quick about the spring game. If you missed the first couple of hours, maybe you're hopping into your car now. I think Tom and myself came away, and I think generally speaking, those on the beat came away a little bit more impressed with the product on the field for this game than we anticipated seeing coming into it. And I think that's because there are some guys emerging. You look at a guy like Emmett, and you look at a couple of other players that maybe you get excited about. Just, well, frankly, the return of Derwin James, refreshing your memory of how talented he is and how versatile he is. But Emmett Rice is a guy at linebacker that I think is going to provide a little something. I haven't been too excited about Florida State's linebackers in the past couple of years, basically since that group with Delvin left. But I'm a little bit more encouraged by what I see there. And then offensively, expectations were really low because rightfully so. You didn't have but a couple of guys in the receiving core that you're going to be counting on, and you didn't have really almost the entirety of your offensive line. So I didn't expect much out of the offense, thus I wasn't disappointed.
Yeah, in watching this game, I took some mental notes about what I thought when I saw it. Early in the game, obviously, they're going to be blankets covering our receivers for the most part. Devontae Phillips found his way open a couple of times, made a couple of key drops. Gator armed one and then straight dropped another one that was a post that DeAndre threw a bullet down the middle of the field about 20, 30 yards. And then on the other side, you've got Nooney, but Nooney can only get so open sometimes. You got to be able to hit him. And the inconsistency of the quarterback play on that side was what plagued Nooney from having a really big day, but he looked fine and sharp. But I just noticed in the very, very beginning how quickly the defense triggered downhill and how much you can lock down and cover in man if you need to. I mean, these are really, really key things. You combine a defensive line like we think we're going to have that's deep. I mean, you can have it too deep when it comes to rush ends. I mean, throw Derwin James in that mix as a rush end. He might be one of the premier rush ends in the country if they want to play him in that role.
He's going to play a role in games that changes from week to week because you can play him anywhere you want.
But you see how quickly downhill we trigger in the backfield, and we're not afraid to hit you. I think there was a little bit more of a signature of toughness. It's certainly what Jimbo's looking for, but the physicality was there. Yeah. And then you respond back, and you see some of the stars that we have on offense too. And I know. I don't want to steal the momentum of talking about the game as a whole, but that freshman running back, man, He just does some things, and he has some qualities that have me giddy. I'm going to be thinking about that all summer long. I don't know if it's going to translate right away in his career.
They play Alabama first game of the year. It's tough to run against them, but yeah.
But he has all the tools, and I walk away mesmerized about what he can be as he grows into a man. He's supposed to be in high school right now, and he looks the part of above average to really good tailback as somebody who still should be in high school playing against men.
When you see a talent like that and you see his body type and you realize that he can play right now, contribute, be successful, there's reason to be excited. The point you just hit on, though, to be that strong at this age for a kid that should be in high school, I mean, to me, I didn't care about the 30-plus yard run. I cared about the little yardage, kind of the yardage that he gained when there was nothing there. The ability to keep things manageable, to not get too far behind the chains, as they say, because he cannot just find the crease there, but he's also a guy that moves the pile a little bit. He's awfully strong for his age. He'll run you over if you don't come and bring your lunch.
Right, and he doesn't have the density yet, the muscle density that comes with growing into manhood, and that's what's scary. I mean, he's dragging Derwin James if Derwin doesn't square him up perfectly.
Well, and they're so deep at running back. That's another thing to be excited about for a long time to come.
I thought Jaquez played really well in this game, and he showed good footwork. He showed burst. For his, it's a different curve. You're grading on a completely different curve. But then he showed the toughness inside the 5-yard line when we couldn't block it up. Very similar. Jaquez's touchdown run had some same qualities to it as the first run that Akers took, which was a 3rd and 1, and they called the timeout. We had to wait even longer for it to happen. But nothing was there, and you got to make something from nothing. Those are the types of things I look at in a spring game, especially one in which you don't have at least 3 of your offensive line starters out there, with the defensive line as deep as it is. Okay, you might project, perhaps, that Alabama is going to outmatch us defensive line for offensive line.
Yes,
and I think you'd probably be right.
I think it's probably fair, right.
So what translates? Those types of plays where you're beaten at the point of attack or you're at least neutralized, but you make something happen. You get small and you get for 2 yards, or you get powerful and you get into the end zone for the touchdown. Those types of things I took away from this game. I'm not saying I'm thinking it's national title kind of or bust stuff coming out of the spring game, but I'm excited with what I saw. Really excited with the situational things that we brought to the table.
Reminder how talented people are, and a reminder of just how well Florida State recruits. There are athletes everywhere. You watch a game like this, it's less about the score or anything like that, and more about just kind of identifying talent, trying to identify depth, quality depth at that, just to see if we have it. So that was on display. I don't know. We'll wait. I'm going to, temper my enthusiasm until I see the offensive line in the fall. And until that time, you're only left to speculate. What else happened? Oh, I don't know. One of the great endings to a Masters in the, all time, at least in my lifetime. That was theater. That was high drama. And for Tom and myself, that it was the desired result. I think we're like 2 of a few Sergio fans, if you will. I do think it was cool to watch people root for redemption there, to see that audience chanting his name. Not something I figured I'd ever see. I'll get to the Masters in a second. Florida State lost on the road 2 out of 3 to NC State. And whatever enthusiasm I had last week, go ahead and throw that out the window. That's on me, guys. That's on me. I had high hopes this was going to be a good weekend for Florida State. They win the first game of the series. We're all set. They got runners at 1st and 2nd and then 9th on Saturday. Nobody out. They don't move them over. They don't bunt them over. And they end up scoring nothing. They ended up popping up in the infield and then hitting double play, and thanks for playing. And that's the end of that. And then yesterday, despite Drew Mendoza's first home run as a Knoll, which hit halfway up on the scoreboard and was a titanic blast, they get beat 8-4, and they lose 2 out of 3. So I can't continue to try to infuse life where there isn't any right now. It is awfully frustrating, and that's a tough series loss for Florida State. Very tough.
Yeah, treading water would be an upgrade from the current position that the baseball team is in. But thankfully, man, this weekend did not have the feel of, say, when we lost to Xavier in the NCAA tournament, where you felt like there's nothing good happening. Spring was stagnant, spring football. The basketball team finished the way we thought it would. The baseball team was struggling. At least you could look at the spring game and say, okay, Derwin James is healthy. He's really good. And Cam Akers is young and really good. And Francois, we think, is taking a step forward. At least we can focus on that to kind of temper the disappointment that is the baseball season.
Well, and they had more problems with guys having to come off the field and change the lineup and injuries again, and just they cannot get anything right in succession. There's just nothing. There's no real momentum right now. Now you got Florida on Tuesday. Tomorrow you got Florida here. I mean, you can obviously get a win there, maybe garner some momentum. It'd be nice. How about we score? How about we just score?
Score a run?
Can we score? Well, I mean, we have done that. We scored the one last time against
Well, that's
Florida.
true.
Yeah.
Score 2?
Can we? Yeah, imagine that. 2. Is that the goal for tomorrow? Score 2 or
Bold
more
endeavor.
runs.
They're putting up a 2 spot in the first inning tomorrow.
Can we put that up in the bowl?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, in the first?
In the first inning, they're going to score 2 tomorrow.
You put it down, buddy. I'm going the other way with that. I'll take that wager. I've been rolling against you on the wagers lately.
Big board.
So we'll just complete it. It'll be a trifecta of wagers.
I'm just going to have to take you to the 7th hill. And then I'm just going to get you crowlers.
It's on me.
I'll take care of your
I
tab,
got
and then I'll
Cameron.
send you home with crowlers.
Just like, there you go, buddy. You got it. So to the Masters for a second, a couple of things stand out. Man, golf is really hard, and you can have a ton of talent, and you might go, 10, 15 years without a major to prove it. Almost 2 decades in Sergio's case. And I thought about something that I heard last night afterwards, which is this. Sergio Garcia and Justin Rose have played collectively, Tom, in 126 major championships. Collectively.
Ooh, okay.
And they've won 2.
Yeah.
Between the 2 of them. Golf is cruel, man. You have
really
to
hard.
you got to know that you're going to straight up lose. Like always. Just always. And even for guys that come out the box and have a lot of success, they get a bounce and they make a putt and they find their way to a major early in their career. It doesn't mean that you're going to handle those situations well moving forward. See Jordan Spieth yesterday with a cool 75 and was basically out the gates and done. And this was his tournament Saturday night. I mean, Saturday night, this was his tournament. But he changed his mindset, I know, and he talked a lot about kind of, attacking and doing these different things. But listen, whatever it was, mindset, lack of execution, whatever it was, he never looked right. Ricky Fowler, who, that amazing run where he finishes in the top 5 of every major in a given year, thanks for the 76, man.
Yeah, no,
I mean, never really in contention on Sunday.
I wish we were doing the live from the Masters on the Golf Channel, because when I saw him on the range, I had one thought and one thought only. He's going to blow up today.
About Jordan Spieth?
No, I'm talking about Ricky.
Yeah.
When Ricky arrived at the range, he was seeking people out to acknowledge and shake. I mean, he looked completely out of body. He looked like he was going to throw up on the driving range.
But
I thought,
didn't you think, isn't that the takeaway?
because he knew he could have won it. That's what it's different. I think when you know you can and you should win it, that's different than trying to chase it down and not knowing if you're good enough.
Here's the weird thing. So the history of Sergio Garcia, besides the boorish behavior, which he is certainly noted for, he has matured greatly. He's been given credit for that the last few years. Certainly everybody's noted the change in his demeanor and his personality on the course and off. And he's talked about it some. He talked about, just willing to be willing to accept, to be present. All of that is, okay, certainly helpful when things don't go your way. And it helped him here. But so did execution of tough golf shots under immense pressure. And that included for him putts. At this point, it's amazing, once again, how golf reveals this. This was a guy who could never do that. He shot a 69 on a Sunday at the Masters and really had ample opportunity, 13, 14, 15, to see it all go away. And yet that's when he made probably the most intense, focused, well-executed shots of his career.
Yeah, it really was
the par
starting.
save on 13.
Yeah, that was it. Well, and the fact that Rose, didn't make birdie or eagle there.
Missed a 6-foot birdie putt.
Especially because he's on the back of the green and 2, and you're just looking at the situation, and you're thinking
this
you're
the
dead
end
in
of
the
the
water.
tournament. The tournament's over here.
Well, it was falling apart. What a roller coaster! Just watching Sergio, and being that we were so invested, we felt it more. But I mean, if you just look objectively, the roller coaster started on 8 when he doesn't birdie 8, and then he misses the putt on 9. Then it's 10 and 11, and he's in a whole world of hurt.
Well,
13 continues that
starting
trend.
to gather the momentum,
Yes.
and you can sense that this thing is flipped on its ear.
But it's completely neutralized when they go par on 13.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, here comes Sergio, and he really should have jarred it on 15 for Albatross.
His 8-iron,
That's one of
his
the great
wedge.
shots ever on that hole. Seriously. Under that pressure, for that guy, being as scrutinized as he has been, fairly, absolutely fairly and rightly so, but he's still under that duress for 20 plus or nearly 20 years.
Yeah, but
and then you
this
make
is what I
that
mean.
shot with that pressure. That's crazy.
Well, it's funny. That's why I think he won over the crowd. The gallery at Augusta is chanting his name. This is not a guy who we ever thought in America people would be chanting his name. I mean, he was one of those guys, almost like Colin Montgomery, that people love to ridicule. And yet there they were pulling for him. And I think it's because most of us at heart root for redemption more than we root against it, right? You want guys, as long as they haven't done something heinous, like commit a crime, a violent crime at that or something, you'll pull for a guy to get it together, to mature, to wake up, to figure it out.
Yeah, but sure, how crazy is it that, you have the counterpunch, because then he takes the momentum and he makes the eagle putt, the one that it looked like it was going to be robbed because it hit so far away from the pin. That should have been inside 2 feet or in the jar.
Yeah. And then the very next,
well, then the next
par
hole,
3,
he hits the shot he hits, but then Rose answers, and then Rose gets the putt first. It's like a match play situation. You'd rather putt first
when he
in
made
that moment.
the putt, I told my wife, no way Sergio makes
Right,
his putt.
and he responds in 17, and then I don't know how Rose missed his putt on 18. I mean, halfway to the hole, that looks like it's going dead down the center of
I
the cup.
assumed he would make it.
And then Sergio, I texted you, he's aiming on the wrong side of the hole. You can see it from the angle. I'm screaming at the television. I would look like a total ass, more than I already was. If he actually made the putt, I would look like a jerk, like times 100. But I'm yelling, you're aiming at the wrong side of the hole. No. And then he misses it, and you assume that in the playoff he's going to lose, and then Rose puts it in the trees.
Well, but the more important than Rose putting it in the trees, Sergio didn't.
Yeah, he had a perfect drive.
As he did throughout the day. Outside of 13, where he broke out the 3-wood and tried to turn it, everything else was a bomb. He hit it a million miles, almost as if, his manhood had been challenged. And that is, I don't know, I think this is a testament to sports psychology. Because he talked about getting help. He's been able to get help. I would love to know who he went to talk to that was successful, seriously, successfully converting a guy who would implode, who had no chance to get out of his own way, to a guy who's a Zen master all of a sudden. Just, well, I'm in the trees on 13. It's okay. I never thought we'd see that. Not from that guy, ever. Ira Chaffel, WarChant.com, joins us next.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Yeah, we moved our guy, Ira Shafel, from the 4 o'clock hour to the 5 o'clock hour today because it's spring football. And obviously, ordinarily after games, let's say, we'd have Coach Fisher in this time slot. But wanted to have Ira in here and kind of do an assessment of what we thought of this spring. And, one thing, Ira, welcome in, first of all. And secondly, it's good kind of to hear him open up towards the end of his Q&A with the media about a willingness to want to be really hard on the players, to be tough, and to try to, it was obvious, I think, to us that he was a little ornery. It's just good to have him confirm it in a way.
Yeah, no, he definitely was the first few weeks, and you would hear it from everybody. You'd hear it from people on the video staff or anywhere around, just talking to people. Hey, how's it going? And they would be like, man, Jimbo ain't putting up with anything this spring. And that's, and again, this is already from a guy who's demanding. So this is nothing new in terms of him. And that's what DeAndre Francois said is, yeah, he might have been a little harder. I'm kind of used to it because he gets it full barrel every day. But I think, for everybody else, and I think it was the coaches and the support staff and certainly the players, he was very determined this spring to ramp it up. And like you said, it was kind of good to hear him talk about it. And I think it was kind of interesting. Those last 2 sessions with the media, that Wednesday before the spring game and then again on the spring game,
yeah,
it was almost like the pin had been pulled and like it kind of deflated, like everything. He was like, okay, we did this, and they got through it, and I think he felt better about things.
He seemed much more gregarious in those interview sessions than he had all spring. He was real short for much of the spring. Yeah. Not a lot of information was coming out of spring practice. It seemed very guarded at times, almost frustrated. I could never tell if he was angry with those of us in the press who were speculating about where the team's at and what kind of season they're going to have, or the pressure he might be under if he were to have another 3-loss campaign. But I think all of that is fair. I don't think the media was unfair. I still think as we head to fall practice, and I'll ask about specifics in the spring game itself in a second, but I still think that you got Alabama looming large. You are coming off a 3-loss season, and I think he was frustrated by last year, so it stands to reason that the head coach would be ratcheting up the intensity on his players and coaches.
Yeah, and I think he feels good right now about how they responded. And I think, and he looks at the totality of kind of what they've got. I get the impression he feels very good about this team. But the questions we have, are reasonable, and they won't be answered until they start playing games. I mean, Jimbo made he made obviously a big decision with the coaching staff to not make any changes on the defensive side. And so he's basically saying he believes that with the right mindset and with the experience they have and this coaching staff, they're going to be great on defense, which they need to be. And if that doesn't happen, then people are going to have questions. And on the other side of the ball, I think he thinks the offensive line is going to be fine once they get everybody back. Landon Dickerson was out this spring. Alec Eberle was out this spring. A couple of the other guys were in and out. Rick Leonard didn't play in the spring game. And when those guys, Cole Minshew was in and out a little bit, and he came back and played in the spring game, I think he feels like when he's got his 7 or 8 guys, they're going to be really good on the offensive line. But, I certainly understand why the fans are going to wonder that, and we're going to have to question it going up into the season.
Yeah, it was a frustrating situation offensively for this spring game because watching it, you got the sense that, first of all, defenses are usually well ahead of offenses in the spring. That's just true all over. Secondly, the strength of this team is going to be the ability to get to the passer and that defensive line, and I think the secondary is very good too. So they're already really talented. And then for Florida State's offense, the side he's coaching, you've got a situation where you're basically down to a couple receivers that you're going to be relying on. You're missing plenty of other guys. And then you've got, 3 or 4 of your starting offensive linemen not out there. It's going to be awfully hard to find a rhythm, awfully hard to establish anything with any consistency. So it's hard to judge exactly what we're going to see from this offense come fall because a lot of the guys they're depending on just simply weren't out there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, and you kind of went into the game knowing that, and when you watched it, I literally every single person you talked to during that game, it seemed like the game lasted 6 hours because it was, pretty boring. And every person you talked to, they're just like roll their eyes and just about how bad it was. But like you said, if you look back at it and you look at it in the bigger picture, any spring game, you're splitting the team in half. You got two offenses made up of your starting offense. So they're always going to be a little bit off of what you're going to expect them to be. Then when you add in all the injuries, it was really hard to gather much, except for, I think, Cam Akers, the running back that everybody's excited about. And then, Bailey Hockman, the freshman quarterback, I think you saw some things from him that you can kind of glean some things from. And then, even defensively, it was hard to really judge those guys because
what they're going up against.
Yeah, they're going up against guys that are not going to be playing on Saturday. So it was, it was very hard to get anything out of it. But again, I think there were some individual things you could probably get out of it.
Yeah, and I should express this just so people who didn't hear the first hour or the second, for that matter, since we've talked a lot about the spring game today, will know I actually came away a little bit more pleased than I expected to. Yes, sure, they couldn't really move the football. I didn't expect them to, so maybe my low expectations were confirmed, but that's fine. I will say I don't need to see Derwin go against our starters to know that Derwin looked like Derwin again, and may very well, if he is healthy throughout the course of this season, be the best player in college football.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. You saw him coming off the edge again in that game, and they were starting to do that a lot, obviously, before he got hurt last year. He worked some at corner this spring. And again, I think, there's no coincidence. I think that Rex Ryan on the broadcast made a comparison to Jabril Peppers, because I'm sure that's something that probably came up in their pre-game conversations with the coaching staff. I think that the way Peppers was used at Michigan is probably what we're going to see out of Derwin, especially because they have so much experience in the back end. You talk about Nate Andrews and Trey Marshall and even the juniors like Westbrook and Bruton and Tavares McFadden and all those guys in the secondary that have played a lot of football. You had to love the Myers kid, the way he played.
Yeah.
They have so many guys in that secondary that now you don't have to worry about Derwin playing center field. You can put him anywhere and try to make him create, not just make tackles, but create turnovers, create big plays.
Get to take advantage of his unbelievable versatility. That's size, that's speed, and that's toughness in one package. And obviously, he's been around the block, so his understanding of how he would fit, no matter where you put him in this defense and what they were trying to run, you're at a comfort level there too. So you would expect just to see a playmaker making plays. I will say this, Ira. I thought, what's your opinion on what we saw from the linebackers? Because obviously, Coach Fisher's really excited about Pugh and the spring that he had and the versatility he brings. But I'll tell you what, Emmett Rice looks like he'll stick his head in there. And last year, of course, we saw a little what for from Jackson. So I think this is a group that might be getting tougher.
Well, yeah, I love Emmett Rice. You just watching him on special teams last year. And that's really where you see those young linebackers. Usually you can tell those guys are making plays on special teams, and they're probably going to be pretty good at linebacker. And that was the case with him. Josh Brown was hurt a lot last year, but I thought he looked pretty good when he was in there. I think that, obviously Dontavius Jackson has shown a lot of ability. And then the junior college transfer, Donovan Thomas, made a couple plays and apparently is, picking things up really well. Yeah, this is the first time in, several years. Shamar Kelby-Lane also being back, and he looked pretty good. I just think that this is the first time in a long time that they actually have real options at linebacker.
It is, and we usually go into the season kind of going, man, we've got to get better at linebacker. Why are we not good at linebacker, et cetera? And then I feel like you've got a bevy of options. And again, guys bring in requisite toughness, and this spring was about Jimbo Fisher talking about instilling more toughness and being tougher on players. Give me your assessment of Cam Akers. I loved what I saw. And I mean this from a physical standpoint. Obviously, he's a talented young man, but he's also a guy that I think, as we see him get in that weight room and put on more strength and size, he's a guy that'll run your ass over. He is not afraid to stick his head in there. And for those of us that hadn't seen him run before, this spring game was kind of evidence of that.
Yeah, everybody's going to talk about the 35-yard run and some of the moves he showed. But, yeah, I agree with you. I just thought the way he runs between the tackles, and then also it just seems like first contact never pushes him back. He seems like he delivers the blow a lot of times and is not willing to go down, which was what, it's a little bit different than Dalvin, but it's the same kind of result of Dalvin. Dalvin never went down on first contact. He didn't bum rush people, but he kind of was just so wiggly and would get off the tackles and deceptively strong. I think Cam Akers is going to end up being a very physical runner. And like Jimbo said, I agree with him 100%. There were some reads and some decisions he made on runs that I think he'll make better as he goes forward. He probably left a good bit of yardage out on the field, but you definitely saw the talent.
Yeah, learning how to run in the open field. Jimbo talked about that, pressing blocks, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But you can see the talent is there, and it's worthy. What else stood out to you? What was it you were most excited about? If you were, just a Seminole fan, you go to that game, whatever your expectations might be, was there something that surprised you?
I don't know if anything surprised me. I think it hit me just watching them. And then thinking about what they have coming in at running back, and not to belabor the running back Cam Akers situation.
Just how deep they are, yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
It is.
They've got Cam Akers, Amir Rasul. I know fans haven't seen it yet, but he's very impressive, and he's got unbelievable talent, unbelievable speed. And we saw it in that open practice last year, how physical he was for a so-called speed guy. We know the coaches love him. Once he gets healthy, I think he's going to be a factor. Jacques Patrick is what he is. I think he's going to be a good back to have, but I don't think he's going to be, he's definitely not a guy that changes the scoreboard the way Akers did. Akers could. But then you've got the Kalen Laybourne. I don't know how to pronounce his name. The freshman coming in from Virginia. And then you've got another Quandre White coming in.
Yep.
They are, they're just loaded at running back, which, again, it's just another piece. If this offensive line, which we're all going to wonder about, if it is solid, you've got a couple dynamic players at receiver in Gavin and Nooney Murray, Auden Tate situationally. You've got a quarterback that you feel like can take the next step and be an elite quarterback. You've got that kind of depth at running back. If that offense, you love what they have at tight end. If the offensive line comes through, I think this offense could be really good.
And they got a commitment from James Cook, another running back for 2018. They got running backs for days, buddy. It's crazy. If I were a running back, I shouldn't say this, but if I'm a running back, I don't know that I'm looking at Florida State right now. They got too many. But then again, he loves guys that aren't afraid of competition, and obviously they move guys around. I don't know. I think the spring went well, and I think obviously the goal to instill some form of toughness. I thought it was kind of a endearing moment. You wrote about it in the WarChant.com story. Him kind of tapping DeAndre Francois on the shoulder as if to say we made it. You get the sense that bond and that relationship between those two was forged in fire a year ago in a good way. Like, that guy had to be as tough as he was, and he did. And you can sense that Jimbo really loves that kid.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. And DeAndre's kind of a tough nut in the sense that, he's not a very open guy. I think he's very businesslike. He's very, and it's not just with the media. He's like that with the media. But if you watch him at practice, he's very much just kind of focused. He just he practices, and when it's over, he kind of goes back to his business. And I think even with the coaching staff, I think he's beginning to open up a little bit more with them. I actually saw him and Coach Sanders kind of walk past each other at one point during the spring, away from the field. And DeAndre gave him a hug, and Coach Sanders kind of joked about, there you go. It used to always be just, a pound or something. He's kind of opened up more to the staff, and I think a lot of that's the trust, and I think, the trust that goes both ways.
It's good to see. I thought he looked comfortable in the pocket. Obviously, a lot to work on when you don't have guys that you're going to be throwing to consistently, but I thought he just looked in command out there and comfortable, and he had the right body language.
Yeah, and he didn't get frustrated.
No.
And I think that was a positive last season. I think it was, again, a positive that day. Just, knowing that everybody's watching him and everybody's going to, conversely, you watch Nooney Murray, who's like jumping up and down, stomping after every play because, he feels like he was open and JJ's not finding him. And not that he was like being a bad teammate, but you just see he wants to make the plays so badly that he gets so emotional about it. Whereas DeAndre is just, it's about the process. And that's, that's an impressive quality for a young kid.
What's your take on Murray? Will he take the leadership role that's necessary in that receiver group coming up this season, or will he be a guy that you're really unsure about coming into the season, somebody else will fulfill that role?
They really need him to, but I don't know. It's hard for me to say he's definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are what you are. You've got a personality, and they can try to turn you into something else. But I think a positive thing is that they're doing everything they can, and I think he's trying his best. I think it's kind of one of those things where there might be, 2 or 3 steps forward and a step backward, and if he does that, though, good grief. I mean,
well, and that's the thing, right? You put up with all of the prima donna stuff that certain receivers have across the board in this game because they make plays, because they're unbelievable athletes, and they can change the scoreboard. And Jimbo knows that. So you just try to get a modicum of leadership out of guys like that. Just give me something moving in the right direction, and I'll obviously take your upside to go with.
Yeah, and I actually ran into Kes McCorvey at practice one day when he's back in town now, and he was at practice, and we were talking about that topic, and he was talking about Randy Moss. And Randy Moss was never a guy that was going to be all the other things you wanted in him necessarily as a teammate and a player on your team. But man, he was so unreal as a talent. I don't know if Nooney Murray's that unreal of a talent. He's a great talent, but he needs to come along with some of that other stuff, and it seems like he is. And I think if that happens again, I mean, Jimbo, he threw around the number one receiver comment during that press conference, which he's never done before. I think they're kind of trying to let Nooney know, hey, we're going to trust you to do this. You need to come through for us.
Always appreciate it, brother. Be well.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, man.
Take care. That's Ira Schoffel, warchant.com. We don't expect that he'll fulfill the role completely. The way that Jimbo puts a lot of pressure on his receivers. This offense, obviously it involves so many moving parts, if you will. He's reliant on a quarterback to have to be along the same lines in terms of thought process as him and his ability to read defenses, et cetera. But the receivers have to run the right routes, and I mean to the nth degree. When it's humming, it's unstoppable. It travels. It's all of those things. But if you get a breakdown in certain areas, particularly receivers that don't run routes, obviously the whole thing comes unraveled and the frustration mounts, and then you have problems. And, right now, I would guess that Jimbo's looking for a guy that he can count on. He's got guys with ability. He's got that for days. But he's looking for a guy that he can trust.
Maybe you put a phone call into Kelvin Benjamin and see if he can offer any words of wisdom, because Jimbo got KB to buy in. It took almost the entirety of his career at Florida State, but he finally got him to buy in.
I've always given Jameis probably the credit for that. I guess if you were to extrapolate that, you have to give Jimbo credit for that. But Jameis understood he had a kid who was somewhat of a malcontent and could easily check out, and so he would force a ball to him early in games. It seemed almost his whole career to let him know, you weren't the primary there, and I still threw to you. I need you. And then you would get him involved. Does DeAndre do that?
Maybe Jameis needs to make a phone call to DeAndre Francois.
Hey, look, man, just throw him a ball early.
These guys, they're beeps.
They can be tough, man. You got to get them involved earlier. They won't freaking run their routes. Yeah, I get it. We'll see. I thought the spring game was a success, given that I did go in with low expectations. They actually played better than I thought they would. That's not a backhanded compliment. I just thought with all those guys out, that this would be a nightmare, and it wasn't.
As we talk about it today even more, I hate to use this term because I sound like a goober, but I'm fired up seeing what I saw in the spring. I really am. That's just you look for situational stuff and been like a broken record today, and I saw little things that can add up when actually you're going to have your full complement out there.
I'm especially in love with the defense, and I thought I would be, and I am, but I can't get fired up until I
know. I understand the folly of it. I understand how ridiculous it sounds.
I'm just saying I can't until I see the full complement of offensive linemen, out there. We can be fired up all we want, but if they can't block, all of it's rendered moot.
Yeah, but I think we can agree, and we do, that this could be a dreadful offseason, a dreadful summer based upon what we saw in the spring game. And thankfully it's not that.
No, that's fair.
We have a baseline agreement there.
That is fair. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You can tell a lot about a tractor by its warranty. That's why Mahindra makes the toughest tractors on earth. With steel, not plastic. Backed by the industry's best limited powertrain warranty, period. Not 5 years, not 6 years, but a full 7 years on select models. No wonder the other guys are green with envy.
No money down, 0% interest, and no payments until July. Available at TNT Supercenter.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from LoCash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Wrapping it up, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. How'd you Braves fans like that sweep? You feel good about that sweep at the hands of the Pittsburgh Pirates, do you? Including a walk-off yesterday, where you gave up a run in the 8th and the 9th, and 2 in the 10th. That hurts your feelings, Braves fans. Could be another long year. That's okay. Starling Marte does that to lots of people. You took 2 of 3, yeah?
No, just the one.
Last night's?
Yeah.
I thought you took 2 of 3, my bad.
No, we did not. We got beat up pretty badly on Friday. Wheeler's not ready yet, but that's okay. I'm not panicking in that regard. And then we got our butts handed to us on Saturday as well. So that happens.
Who pitched Saturday?
Gesellman. I mean, he's our 5. So he did what 5s do, 3 runs in 5 innings, and then
That's
the
not
bullpen
bad.
got hit a little bit. So
All right.
just can't swing the bats right now. We're as cold as the temperatures in New York.
Probables, good sir.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
There's a game going on right now, by the way, between Charlie Morton and James Paxton, Astros, Mariners.
Morton.
Reds, Pirates, 7:05, PNC Park. Will he throw strikes? Tyler Glasnow, or Tyler, as his family calls him. Pirates' top prospect earns a final spot in the rotation out of spring. We'll see. Dude likes to walk people. I'm not a big fan of walking people. Usually leads to losses. Brandon Finnegan will pitch for the Reds. Mets, Phillies tonight. Oh, you two,
Yeah, that's
side
right.
wager action?
This side of the glass.
Yeah. Well, you got DeGrom. You should feel good about that. They've got Eichhoff. He allowed just 2 runs in 6 2/3 on Wednesday.
That's great. DeGrom's 6 shutout last week.
That's true. His best outing prior to surgery last summer came against the Phillies. 7 strikeouts.
There you go. All
So,
right.
yeah, he likes the Phillies.
Feeling good. Baseball every night. I like
There
it.
you go. It is beautiful, isn't it?
With the Stanley Cup playoffs starting this week and us not participating, yeah, I need it badly.
I just like knowing I'm sitting around doing things. I got this, oh, put on the baseball game.
There it is.
Or a baseball game, any baseball
Put
game.
on the professional baseball game.
Did you watch, yeah. Did you watch Jack last night?
I watched the last half an hour of it, yes.
It's good.
It is. It's well put together.
I'll watch the second part tonight, and then we got the third part the next
Boy,
night.
we are chock
We're all
full of
set.
TV options.
Options, baby. Cards, Nats, Adam Wainwright, and Tanner Arndt. Come on, Tanner. Dodgers, Cubs, Alex Wood, John Lester, and Padres, Rockies. Jared Cosart, Tyler Chatwood. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the up.
Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive. I'm just glad to be here, happy to feel that.
At the end of the line. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in a good mood, but I am of the mindset that the summer, which we're rapidly approaching towards, is going to be long, man, because it occurred to me as soon as the spring game ended.
That it's April?
Well, no, that April's always a little tough, but it's also the return of baseball, so I'm kind of mitigates the depression you feel that you have this long to wait. But you said it about a month ago that this was going to be kind of an interminable offseason just for the fact that the first game's Alabama. And, it's funny. I went to the spring game, watched the spring game on the replay with Rex, and when you watch that, they talk a lot at the beginning about the Florida State-Alabama game, and they were talking about how it's likely going to be 1 versus 2. And it's funny, in that moment, I thought, yeah, that's right. That is going to be a monumental moment for college football fans, and we'll be at the center of it, and we'll be busy in a good way, and we'll be preparing for it this offseason just as the team does, but only from a broadcast standpoint. And I'm going to be eager to see, because here's the deal. I was looking at it wrong. I was looking at it as, damn, you hate to lose your first game of the season. And I said that I feel like we'll lose this game to Alabama. And so I looked at it with a little bit of depression attached to it. Just 0-1 doesn't sit well. Didn't leave you much room for margin for error. But in truth, I'm not going to assume a loss, and because I think the defense is going to be really good. And B, you could walk out of that game, even after a loss, feeling much better about the direction of the program. It's possible. You know how you walked away from the spring game going, okay, that's a little better than I thought it was going to be?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not making excuses, but if you go and lose 34-27 or something, we would walk out of there in Atlanta and go, this is going to be a good year. This is a good team.
Hope you took the over.
Well, I'm just saying you would walk out of there saying at that point, all right, this is going to be all right. If you're highly competitive with the team that's perennially ranked number one in the preseason, and for good reason,
and that you have the playoff now,
that's what I mean.
That's why this
You
game.
got time.
Yes, exactly. It's not do or die necessarily. Now you don't have any strikes left, but you have a marker, and even if you were to lose that game, you say, okay, this is the standard. How close are we to the standard?
Can you play to that?
And then over the next 11 games in our regular season, hopefully 12, given that we play in the ACC title game, which is what we're shooting for this year, how can we live up to that standard? Or do we win the game and we say, well, okay, how much tighter can the ship be run, And I said ship with a P just in case people freaked out.
I'll let you know, man. I would think that if they win that game at that point, you're thinking national title. I mean, you're not. Obviously, there's work to be done.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but I mean, you win the game. That's the first thing you're thinking every week is, hey, let's not derail our national title.
Yeah, you go into protector mode.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's almost.
But that's
like,
only a fan mentality.
I hope so, but I mean, you know how different 13 and 14 was, or were, as two different seasons. One was the attacker, and the other was the protector. It would be weird because as fans, at the very least, and hopefully not the players and the coaching staff, but you would flip that switch in one game.
Oh,
you'd go from attacker's mentality to okay now. We've got the trump card. Just hang on for dear life.
Do you think Jimbo Fisher likes that this is the first game? Probably not. Probably not. In the past, I would have said overwhelmingly no.
Yeah, he talked about it in the press conference.
Yeah.
He said that's why coaches hate the first couple of weeks because you can run, different stuff that you've never seen before and you have 6-8 months to prepare. So you're not even preparing for the team you see on film, which is, in late October, early November, the team you see is the team they are.
But in this situation, it benefits us to have this the first game of the year, not Alabama.
Oh, I tend to agree. But from Jimbo's standpoint, he's arrogant enough to think, well, they're going to pull some screwy stuff on us. But yes, it benefits us.
I think if you're going to play Alabama, you want to play them now or the last game of the year.
Yeah, it neutralizes their support staff advantage.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Absolutely. You get the chance to surprise them. I don't think Alabama comes out and changes for anybody. I think that arrogance is probably well-deserved. They're not going to come out and change for anybody. They're going to do what they're going to do. I think Jimbo's got an opportunity here to kind of, all right, well, they're going to be aware for a variety of reasons that I like to do this, this, and this.
Now at quarterback, Cam Akers.
Good work out of you, sir. Great work out of you, Matthew. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be well. Talk to you tomorrow.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
You put your mower through a lot. All that back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance.
Get your Gravely motor only at TNT Supercenter, your one-stop shop for work or play. 14585 Highway 19 South, Thomasville, Georgia. TNTSupercenter.com.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough, like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck, always enough. I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Locash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.